his girlfriend buried the kid in the backyard.
These crimes are horrific. Whatever this child's life was supposed to be, you make sure it didn't happen.
I knew I was sick or evil or both.
220 dispatch, you jumped. We have fire out here. Yeah, well, where is he in the water?
In custody at 324.
I have to imagine that at some point you got on the internet and said, how do I bury a body?
I am so very sorry. I deserve whatever I get because of what I have done.
Just a quick warning, this video will contain explicit and sexual content. The video will tell some gruesome details about murder victims and crimes committed by a very disturbed individual. This is not a topic that can be treaded lightly, and as such, viewer discretion is advised.
Hi everyone, it's Lady Curious, aka Curious Raven, back again with another true crime. It's not completely solved, but it's ongoing right now. This is a case that happened in 1999, and I see that it's not really out there a lot. There's maybe like 4 or 5 true crime creators that have done the story. And there also is the podcast that has really deep dived into this case. Let's start this. J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hawlett were found shot to death in the trunk of J.B.'s car in Ozark, Alabama in 1999. The case is still unsolved, but it's ongoing now, so there have been some movement. This is what happened. Also, I am reading from something, but I will throw in other little tidbits that I have read, I have listened to, I know. I like to be real with y'all. I don't want to just read from a script. I want to be personal between you and I. When I'm talking about cases, I want you to know how it makes me feel, kind of in the moment. Let's get this going. On July 31st, 1999, 17-year-old friends, J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hawlett, they left Dothan, Alabama. That's where they lived. It was around 10:05 p.m. They get into JB's black 1993 Mazda 929 to attend a birthday party in her honor in Headland, just a few miles north. But unfortunately, the girls never made it. Both of the girls had kind of a curfew around 11, and since it was only a few miles, down the road, that they wanted to just drop by, especially since JB heard that they were throwing it for her birthday, and she just wanted to stop in and say hello real quick and then leave and tell everybody thank you. And these girls were smart, pretty, popular, funny. They're only in high school. They only had one more year left. They're about to start their senior year in high school. They were very, very young, and it's very, very sad. It really is. Around 10:30, JB and Tracy stopped at a BP gas station in Headland near the intersection of routes 173 and 431, where they used a payphone to call friends. Supposedly they got lost. They wanted to make sure they were going in the right direction, so they called their friends at the party to ask. After the call, the girls ended up in Ozark, Alabama, about 24 miles northwest of Headland. So they got lost. They went way out of their way. They still did not understand directions to the party. At 11:30 p.m., the girls stopped at Big Little Store on Broad Street in Ozark. The store closed a half hour earlier, so at 11 p.m. Tracy called her mother from a payphone there and told her they got lost and ended up in Ozark, and that they are on their way back home. A woman they saw there, named Marilyn Merritt, and her daughter stopped at the gas station to buy a soda at the same time the girls were there. Marilyn then witnessed Tracy using the phone to call her mother. Marilyn said the girls were nice and polite and that JB was outgoing. Nothing seemed amiss. When the girls pulled out of the parking lot, they turned right as directed. However, J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hawlett never made it home. Okay, when I researched this case, there was this TV show or YouTube show, like Psychics and Mediums, where they actually showed them telling the camera things that they did not know about the murder. And in this show, they said that when JB and Tracy were at the big little convenience store, that in their mind's eye, they could see a black truck sitting kind of in the dark behind Tracy and them. So the person inside could see them pull up, park, and use the phone. And they said it was a man inside. The windows were blackened, like tinted windows. And he was just waiting, like a lion with a Giselle. That's it. It's disgusting. They were trying to help figure out what other people didn't know before the discovery of the girls the next day. One medium said that he actually took the police chief over to where the girls were at, because how they found their car was on the side of a dirt-roaded area, but they were pulled over onto the shoulder on Herring Avenue in Ozark. When they noticed, it was around 8 a.m. the next morning, August 1st, 1999, and at the same time, Tracy's mother reported her missing. Police found JB's car along Herring Avenue in Ozark. The car was muddy. The driver's side window was partially down, and the doors were locked. Despite filling the gas tank the day before, the tank was almost empty. There are no signs of a forced entry into the vehicle. JB's driver's license was on the dash, and both girls' purses were still inside of the car, along with some money. So robbery was ruled out as a motive. The only known missing item was JB's keychain, which held her car keys and other keys. The keychain had white blocks with black letters that spelled out "hard to get," but the keychain was never found. A palm print was recovered from the trunk lid, but a match has never been made. 6 hours later, police finally realized they could open the trunk of the car with an interior latch without needing the trunk key or locksmith. When police opened the trunk, the bodies of the two girls were inside. Both had been shot to death. Tracy in the temple, JB in the right cheek. A 9mm shell casing laid precisely on Tracy's leg. The girls were fully clothed. Tracy's jeans had briars on them, and she had scratches on her arm. JB was noticeably dirty. The girls' pants were wet up to the knees, suggesting they had been shot, and their shoes were also very, very muddy. So this is just things that I found online. I'm not saying it's true or it's like hearsay or whatever, but he actually took the police chief over to the other location where this happened. And it was kind of in between a barn and a little bit down the hill was a creek. And he could see the girls falling into the creek, and that's why their shoes and their pants were all muddy and wet. He had a gun, duh, that's a given, and he had the girls get on their knees, and they did rape kits, and the girls were not raped, but they did find semen all over JB's bra and panties. He made them literally pull up their shirts, so he can see their bra and stuff. He got off on, masturbation by looking at them. And I guess he had them pull their pants down a little bit. Lewd, lascivious act, showing his penis to a underage girl. And that's just disgusting. I feel so bad that they had to, sit there and go through that. Because if I were them, I would think, oh God, what is he going to do next? He's going to rape us. I'm very happy that they weren't. I know their family, their mom, dad, are just heartbroken that this happened to them. The autopsy showed that the girls had no alcohol or drugs in their bodies. Some evidence in the trunk led police to believe the girls were shot in the trunk. However, they are still unsure exactly where the murders actually occurred, on Herring Avenue or somewhere else. And the place that the psychic brought the police chief, y'all, not even 100 yards away from where the car was. It was kind of like the car was on the shoulder of the road, and then there was some dense forest, and then there was the barn and all that he said that it happened at. I have not saw or seen or heard that they actually found additional evidence in that location, but I don't think so. More than 50 state and county investigators worked the case in a city, which is 45 officers on its force. An FBI suspect profiler was brought in, but the profile revealed nothing dramatic. The killer, most likely, was a young male who could be described as a loner. On the night of July 31st, 1999, at the same time Tracy Hallett called her mother from the payphone at Big Little Store, Johnny William Barentine, 28, told his wife he was going out to buy milk for their 2-year-old son. Barentine did not return home until 1 a.m. His wife said that when he came home, he was visibly upset. She asked him what happened, and he said his car had been hit by a black truck with Dothan tags near Herring Avenue. Days later, Barentine confided to others that he had information about the murders of J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hallett. A friend encouraged him to tell authorities and collect the reward. On September 1st, 1999, Barentine walked into the Ozark Police Department where he was interviewed for 4 hours. In that time, he told 6 different stories to police and at times even placed himself at the crime scene. Initially, Barentine said that on July 31st, 1999, he saw a black truck speeding away from the area where the girls were found. Then he claimed he picked up a tattooed man he did not know, and they drove by the Big Little Store. The man then got into a car with 2 girls and told Barentine to follow. Barentine identified the girls as the dead girls. The group ended up on Herring Avenue where the man and the girls got out of the car. One girl ran. Both girls were combative. Barentine heard 2 gunshots before the man returned to the car and both men went home. In another story, Barentine told officers this man was his neighbor. Barentine actually lived less than a mile from Herring Avenue. In all versions, Barentine never mentioned anything about sexual assault. After his confession, police arrested Barentine and charged him with 2 counts of capital murder. He then retracted his confession, claiming he was innocent and that he made the whole thing up to get the reward money. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Because nothing he said really lined up with any of the evidence. When Barentine's DNA was tested, it did not match the semen found on JB's body and clothing. Therefore, the judge approved Barentine's bond request. He was released from jail Friday, December 17th, 1999. A grand jury declined to indict him in January 2000. There were some other suspects. There were 3. One was a man from Michigan who was in the area at the time of the murders and could account for a period of 3 to 4 hours that night. He later made suspicious statements to people about the night. Law enforcement officials traveled to Michigan to interview him and had his DNA tested. Not a match. Big Little Store surveillance video recorded a small white pickup at the time the girls were there. The video does not show the driver or anyone else getting out of the truck. It also never clearly shows the driver's face. Police released a photo of the truck to the media a month into the investigation, but no one came forward. The truck and the driver were never found. The 3rd suspect was a man from Mississippi who was visiting relatives in Ozark on the night of the murders and left town 2 days later. The man was extradited from Jones County, where he had been arrested there on an outstanding warrant for possession of drug paraphernalia issued in Ozark. In March 2000, authorities compared his DNA samples to those found on JB. They did not match. In March 2000, a woman called police and said she heard screams and 2 gunshots near Highway 123 South, just inside the city limits. On the night of July 31st, 1999, she had not come forward earlier because she did not want to get involved. The area was searched with metal detectors, A 9mm bullet, the same type used to kill the girls, was found, but the brand name of the bullet did not match the brand of bullet shell casings found. Furthermore, the unspent bullet had no markings that would help with forensic comparisons to other evidence in the case. Another item was found at the possible crime scene on Highway 23 and was tested. Soil samples were also taken from the possible murder site and compared to dirt taken from the clothing of J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hallett. It is unclear what the other item was or what came from that testing. So they had no solid leads. They had nothing to point them to who it could be. In 1999, the DNA and even just forensic testing was not as amazing as it is today. There are some rumors about this case. They are not proven. They are just what someone came forward and said. There's no validity to them, but this happened in 2015. Rena Crum, a sworn Ozark Auxiliary police officer, came forward and accused an Ozark police officer of murdering J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hallett. She also claimed that the numerous law enforcement officials had knowledge of the murderer's identity and covered it up by getting rid of evidence and making threats. She claimed one cop in particular, Butch Whittington, messaged her on Facebook and told her to keep her fucking mouth shut. She also named two other cops, Rex Tipton and Eddie Henderson. Rena went as far as to say that Police Chief Tony Spivey also knew the killer's identity and helped cover it up as well. Rena alleged that on the night of July 31st, 1999, this police officer pulled over J.B. Beasley and demanded to know the whereabouts of some cassette tape that contained recorded conversations that could have incriminated top Ozark police officials and others in cocaine distribution and profits. According to an article, this was on the internet too. I tried to find the article. Actually, I didn't find it, but this kind of tells us what was in it. An article written by John P. Carroll, a journalist. The retired officer believes the two girls intended to use these tapes in a court case that was scheduled for the coming Monday, August 2nd, 1999, less than 48 hours after they were murdered. The tapes were to be entered as evidence. Carroll also states in this article that Rena was severely beaten with a baseball bat after she came forward. Out of fear, she refuses to name who almost killed her, despite Rena's allegations and the fact that she named certain police officers about their involvement in the murders. She refused to name the officer who supposedly murdered the girls or how JB acquired these tapes. However, it is an understanding of this author that JB was present when the conversations took place and she secretly recorded them. The law enforcement officers Rena has accused have denied any involvement in the murders of J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hallett. On January 29, 2016, Keith Cawthon, Rex Tipton, Tony Spivey, Eddie Henderson, and Gary Butch Whittington, all Ozark, Alabama officials, filed a lawsuit against Rena Crum, John B. Carroll, and Dean Matthews for libel, slander, and defamation of character. John B. Carroll owned HenryCountyReport.com at the time and wrote a few articles on Rena's allegations. Interestingly, since 2016, the website is now a legal online magazine. In May 2016, Rena Crum was arrested for harassment communications. Despite an investigation over the years into the murders, no one has ever been arrested and the case remains unsolved. Ozark Police Chief Tony Spivey worked the case until his retirement in 2015. I also heard another rumor that it's because JB was supposedly in a secret relationship with one of the police officers. To be honest, I don't see a 17-year-old girl. These are my opinions. I don't see a 17-year-old girl doing all that. They got better things to be doing instead of trying to blackmail a police officer. It sounds ludicrous. Also, how would they know? How would the police officer know exactly where the girls were? That makes no sense. It's 1999. It's not like they got a tracker on her car. To me, that rules out that. I don't think that the police had anything to do with it. They were trying their best to get someone in there to help them, like the FBI, and they were doing everything that they could to try to figure this out. Because until this day, this case has just still rattles, and it just shook up those quiet towns in Alabama. My other thoughts, I do believe it was a man that was hiding and waiting, and the girls didn't see him, and he used that to his advantage. Place at the wrong time, kind of deal. They just had so much life to live, and someone took that away from them because they wanted to do lewd and lascivious acts to them, and that's not worth their lives. There's no reason why he had to shoot them. So, that's what I believe, that they're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and some little lurker was lurking and followed them, and I believe the way the psychic said was this truck got in front of the girls as they were driving, like further down the road, and then pulled across the road and made them stop. And he acted like he needed help. And so she rolled down the window, about 4 inches to see what was going on, JB did. And then the guy stuck a gun in their face, and then their hands were tied, They couldn't do nothing. They had to listen to what he wanted and said. And then he got into their car and had them drive them over to the barn. He put them in the trunk, shot them, drove the car back. And it makes so much sense. But no one really knows what happened. No one knows. Only those girls do. And unfortunately, they're not here to tell their story. And sick man. So this is the newest news. It came out in 2020. They actually found a DNA match to the semen that was on JB's clothes. But it was a DNA match through, how people put their DNA to 23andMe, to Ancestry.com. Well, it states on the fine line that your DNA can be used. Goes into a database, and there are labs that actually run those DNA samples through old cold cases to see if it hits on one of the DNA matches. So keep that in mind. But this person, I guess, put his DNA in there, maybe, by family or related, closely to somebody that was, and then they realized that it was actually him. It was a turn in the case, I can tell you that. And he got arrested on Saturday, March 16th, 2019. Police arrested 45-year-old Cooley McCraney of Dothan and formerly of Ozark, Alabama, in connection with the 1999 slaying of J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett. Information gathered indicates DNA collected at the crime scene was uploaded to a database where anyone can share their data from consumer DNA testing companies such as 23andMe and Ancestry.com to search for relatives who have submitted their DNA. The DNA data revealed matches equivalent to relatives of the crime scene DNA. Other information allow law enforcement to close in on a single person. Now, he's in jail, and he was he's a reverend, a very supposedly godly man. His wife is just beside herself that, no, my husband could never do this, and he pleads that he is innocent. But DNA does not lie. I mean, why else would his DNA semen be on her clothes if he didn't do it? But he still pleads he's not guilty. He did have a trial set for 2021, but due to COVID, they had to keep pushing it back. So the newest update is that supposedly this year, 2022, he's supposed to have a trial and be tried with the murders. So I can keep you updated when that does happen and what the outcome is, if he is actually found guilty or not. I think he will be. I mean, the evidence is crazy. He lived in Ozark at the time. His DNA was on J.B. Beasley's clothes. That was a long time ago. He's 45 years old now. He's old. He was young back then and wanted to live out his fantasies or something. It's really sad, y'all. That's mainly all I have about this case. And it's just very, very sad that these girls were on their way back home and then this happens. They told their mom, I'm on my way, and then they never came home. I'm glad now that we do have cell phones. It's easier to call people, and I'm glad there's advanced technology today to help solve crimes, even cold cases or mysteries. I'm from Alabama. I do know where Dothan is, but I've never heard of Ozark, Alabama. That was new to me. I did not hear about this, even think I was about 11 or 12 when this happened to JB and Tracy, but I didn't hear about it. Not that I remember. It's a quiet town. Stuff like that doesn't happen there that often. So it was huge news, even for Alabama, especially back then. Alright, I don't know how to end this video, but that's all I got for this case today. I hope that this brings more light to this case and not to forget about JB and Tracy. I do give my condolences to their family. I know that they are probably still hurting. Please do not put any hate down in the comments because one of their family members might be watching this and reading the comments. Just be nice. I love you all. Please learn from these cases and stay safe. Please tune into my other channel, Curious Raven and Lady Curious. Give some likes and subscribe. If you have any other cases you would like me to read or dig deeper on and read it that you would like to see on this channel, please email me. Everything's down below. Until next time. Hi everybody, it's Lady Curious, aka Curious Raven. Today we have a true crime that has been solved. I have been working on this for weeks, but this actually involves a child and I had to take more breaks in between getting all the information, going through all of the videos, interrogations, because it's a case that breaks my heart. This is the case of Jordan Rodriguez. Some of you might have already heard this case, and this is probably going to be 2 parts. To understand this case, I need to start at the beginning with the Jordan's mom, Larissa Rodriguez. She grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Her birth mother was on drugs, but in 1998, Larissa reported while she was a teen mother at the age of 17, her baby's father was abusive to her. At that time, she lived with him. And she tried to go back to her birth mother, to go back home, to get help. But her mother denied her coming home. Her mother said she needed to find her own way. Finally, Family and Children's Services were contacted, and Larissa was removed from her mother's care. She was then adopted and stayed in Cleveland, Ohio with 2 sisters and adoptive mother siblings. In 2007, she actually went through something pretty hard. Her adopted mother was murdered by her abusive partner. Her name was Emma, and she was stabbed 12 times in the chest. And this happened when Larissa was around 24 years old. Larissa was devastated. Larissa said that she was a loving, caring mom and was always there for them. So far, she had a rocky life. Larissa is a mother of 9 when this incident happened, and pregnant with 1. 10 children altogether. She jumped from guy to guy, and many of them were criminals and abusive. This occurred when Larissa was age 34 years old. She started dating a man named Christopher Rodriguez, and no, they are not married, and they are not related. They just happened to be born with the same last name. Just a coincidence. They were dating about a year when this incident happened. At the time, Christopher was actually in prison, just went into prison because he failed to pay child support for his other kids that were out there somewhere. Larissa had a history of abusing and being cruel to her children. There have been 13 neglect and abuse investigations on Larissa since 1999. Her sisters, Michelle, especially Anna, said she saw her sister abuse her nieces and nephews when she used to live with Larissa, and she did call Family Children's Services on her multiple times to report it. It was like they said, oh, we'll look into it, and sometimes they would send somebody, and then they would just close the case and nothing was done. Anna stated that all Larissa and Chris did was beat on the kids. Now, Jordan, like I said before, was one of Larissa's sons. He was born with struggles. He was mute, so he did not talk at all, and had slow developmental issues. They said he may have been on the spectrum for autism, but I could not find any true doctor diagnosis of it from a medical professional. He was a disabled little boy. His family described him as a sweet, happy little boy. He was born in 2013 and died September 2017. Most of Larissa's other children are in the system, and at that time, she had 5 children in her custody. A friend of Larissa reported that one time she was there, she found Jordan looking half dead in a closet. She called FCS on her and reported it. Both of Larissa's sisters put many calls into Family Children's Services to report the abuse, but they would send people over there but never supposedly found anything. The system failed these children, especially Jordan. Larissa's sister and other children have witnessed Jordan in a corner, holding something in both hands stretched out and with a sock in his mouth, y'all. A sock in this little boy's mouth. It was described that Larissa and her boyfriend was a lot harder with punishments for Jordan compared to the other children. I don't know why, y'all. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like they saw him as weak, and that since he doesn't talk, they could get away with it. These people are just fucking gross. Here is a news clip of her sister.
Hi, Sarah. Well, this case was a lot for many to digest, so we built out a timeline of how it all unfolded from start to finish. According to Larissa's sister, Michelle Rodriguez, Jordan was alive July 17th. On July 31st, Larissa told family that Jordan was half dead in the closet.
I feel like if I never left that home, they would at least have somebody there protecting them.
After that, Larissa told her nephew that Jordan was visiting an aunt in Texas who was going to help him get better. Mid-August, Larissa's nephew asked about Jordan again, and Larissa said he was still with his aunt. October 16th, Christopher Rodriguez, who's Jordan's stepfather, went to jail on child support charges.
Her and her boyfriend, Christopher. Where's he at? Who? Where's he at? Okay, that's who you need to be looking at.
December 18th, a lot unfolded. Police received a call from Pakistan from Christopher Rodriguez's brother.
Our caller is in Pakistan calling right now. He received this information third party. States his brother and his girlfriend buried their 4 or 5-year-old son in the backyard and found the child unresponsive this morning.
Child Protective Services then removed 4 children from the home after finding out they were living in deplorable conditions. and Larissa was taken into custody for questioning. The next day, December 19th, human remains were found in the backyard of the home. Larissa's sisters have raised questions about whether these remains are connected to the skull found in a vacant home on Longmead Avenue.
The main incident came to light when Christopher Rodriguez's brother, who has wished his name to be anonymous, was overseas in the military at the time. He was in Pakistan, I think. He called 911 to report what his brother Christopher had confessed to him. Here's that 911 call.
How you doing, ma'am? I'm calling from overseas, but it's kind of I guess I need to talk to like a detective or somebody, or I don't know if you can. Basically, it's kind of messed up the whole situation, but my brother told me something, and I just can't sleep at night as far as, you know, what I don't know. I just kind of feel like I need to say something.
Something for concerning your brother?
Yeah, just
what?
I know. It sounds crazy, but
no,
what he told me.
Where does he?
He lives off of Detroit.
What is
so I don't know his direct address. Basically, he told me that something happened with one of the kids, and they didn't call the cops, and basically him and his girlfriend buried the kid in the backyard. Now, mind you, my brother is known to lie a lot, so I kind of like blew it off, and I was like, hey, man, I hope that ain't true. It's not his kid, it's one of her kids. What he told me was he came home, his girlfriend called him, he rushed home, and then, like, I think the little boy was like 4 or 5. Now, mind you, I've only seen these kids like one time, so I couldn't tell you who they are, what it is about, but he told me that the boy was unresponsive. And I was like, okay. Well, he's like, well, this kid had a lot of problems. Like he had like one lung and one kidney, and I don't even know if that part is true because I don't know these kids because he's only been with this girl maybe 2 years, and I've been like overseas the whole time. So I only really met her like maybe once or twice in my life. You know?
What is your brother's address?
That's the thing. I don't know his address. I can give you his name though. It's Christopher Rodriguez. And I think you can pull it up that way.
C. Christopher, with a K or a C?
Oh, what a C. What a C. Doesn't the story just sound crazy, though? It sounds absolutely insane, right?
Can you spell Rodriguez?
It's a common spelling. R-O-D-R-I-G-U-E-Z.
Okay. Do you know his date of birth?
Yeah, it's 1/12/80. No, I'm sorry, it's not 1/12 at all. I'm about to give you my birthday. It should be 8/11/81, but sometimes it's 8/12/81, so it's one of the two. Because basically, I know it is 8/12, but I know his birth certificate at one point said 8/11, so I don't know which one.
Okay, do you know?
It really goes off of.
Do you know his girlfriend's name?
Yeah, his girlfriend's name is Larissa Rodriguez. We're not married. She just has last name and her name is L-A-R. I think it's L-A-R-R-I-S-S-A or it's L-A-R-I-S-S-A. Now, mind you, right now he's actually locked up, I think, in Medina County for child support. So he's already. Now, mind you, I don't even know if this is true. I really don't. I just know he told me. I couldn't sleep. And I was just like, yo, you need to.
So
why didn't you call the cops?
Happen?
He didn't really give me an exact time frame. He just made it seem like it was like months ago, and that's why I was really mad because I was like, I thought he kind of told me like within a day or so, and I was like, wait, you mean this is months ago? And he was like, yeah, man. I was like, what on earth would make you not call the cops or call the ambulance?
When did he tell you that? When was it that he told you that? When did he tell you that?
He told me right before he went in jail. I don't know if that was a couple weeks ago or whatever it was. Whenever he got locked up, that's when he told me. But I didn't, mind you, I didn't really believe him. I was like, there's no way this is true. And then he got locked up the next day, so I could never really confirm whether or not what he told me was either a lie or it was true. But I don't know. I just kind of felt like it needs to at least be looked into because I really don't feel he's at fault, and maybe I'm being biased because that's my brother, because what kind of mother would bury her kid in the backyard? I don't know what kind of mother would do that. I don't want anybody to possibly turn them in.
I mean, we've had things like that happen before. I really, really do appreciate your call and you standing up for what's right.
Oh man, it's just because it's just a sad situation because I know, and he was crying when he told me, and that's what made me kind of believe his sincerity. But I was never able to verify directly. But I know I couldn't sleep at night, and I was like, man, you know what? And then when I told this person, I was like, hey, what do you think? And they're like, oh, I'm gonna call the cops. And I'm like, well, man, I told him, like, hey, I'm getting ready to come back maybe I could literally be in Cleveland maybe on Wednesday if everything goes well.
Okay.
With my flight and everything. And I was going to just do it in person, but I was like, I'm not going to have that happen and not come for me. And I even told him, too, like, before he went to, when we finally got locked up, I said, hey, man, hearing the story from you directly, he's like, I can take a lie detector test. I know I didn't hurt that kid, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I can prove that. That's a fact. He said, when I came home, the kid was already dead. And I was like, are you serious right now? And then, like, the phone hung up, and then he had to go to court, and then they violated his probation for something. I don't know. And then he ended up going to go in jail for, I think, 90 days for child support.
We're going to have the police check it out, okay? And they try to get. And he told me, all he told me was that the kid was buried in the backyard. Now, that's all I know. And she had so many kids. Yeah, right in his backyard. And that's all he said. He's like, we buried him in the backyard. But the kid in question, I don't know what his name is, but I guess he has a lot of problems. So I guess the only way to really figure it out is figure out how many kids she actually has, and then figure out which one's missing. Because what he did tell me that made me kind of believe his story was, he said him and his girlfriend told the older kid that he was staying with her sister, who also has a special needs kid, and that way they don't question it. You see what I'm saying? Like this, and I was like, it just okay. So
I don't know.
They may think that he's with her sister. Right.
Exactly. So the older kids might actually think, hey, this, he's with his.
Okay.
So they might not question things.
Christopher told him that his girlfriend called him at work and begged and pleaded with him to come home because something happened. And when he got there, Jordan was unresponsive. And he told his brother that while on the phone, supposedly, he cried when he helped Larissa bury Jordan's body in the backyard of their home. Now, when this 911 call came in, they sent police over there to follow up, but they couldn't just go in there guns blazing and start digging up the backyard. They have to have some type of substantial tip or something like that to actually, get a warrant and do all that. So here is that police officer's body camera video where he first went over to Larissa's house.
There's a car in the driveway. It's got a fenced in right there. Run this plate. Frank, yesterday, Lincoln, 7437.
Frank, yesterday, Lincoln, 7437 is on a 2017 Chevy 4-door.
Anyway?
Listed out of Lakewood. It's showing 227 attached to it for a Tony Smith from Larceny out of North Homestead.
Okay, it's parked in this yard over there.
Copy.
Nothing looks disturbed. The gate is open.
David 16. Can you run that plate?
It is coming back clean on a 95 Chevy two-door to a Sylvester Sims out of Brooklyn.
That's coming back to somebody with a warrant or something.
I have that address.
Start tapping on these doors over here. Doesn't nothing look disturbed over here, by the way.
The address is going to be 4923 Ridge Road, 4923 Ridge Road, and the only phone number attached is going to be 216-559-8119.
Sylvester Sims.
Yes, sir?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, the address is that this is associate. That's Parma.
It's in Brooklyn, 44144.
Tap right here.
Terminal 284. Radio to Adam 17 for 1. Thank you. 1410 Irving, 1410 Irving, the White Aiken House. Samara's calling states the side door on it is open. She's not sure if anyone's inside. The code 3, cat is 2408-2408. Thank you, 1022.
I'm trying to. Is it a door to the front here? Yeah. All right.
Adam 11, and just for info.
Go ahead.
Per the caller, this is an update that we just got. Per the caller, stating that the child was possibly buried a couple of months ago.
Okay, copy that. On the update on our end, there's nothing in the rear looks to be disturbed, so we have somebody at the door right now, so step by.
Okay.
7222 to channel 2.
She's got 5 kids.
7222.
Are your kids here?
It's going to be I-90 East at West 41.
You mind if you step in?
East at West 41. For a 3-car accident in the middle lane.
Okay.
There's a semi involved.
You have one of
There's a semi
on 4 or 5 year
facing
old.
the wrong way. Code 1.
How old are your children?
4.
Okay.
He just turned
Is it a boy? A girl? What?
a little boy,
A boy. What's the boy's name?
Anthony.
Okay. See if you can get a name. Okay.
Is there anything?
Well, we got a call want us to check on the well-being of the 5-year-old, 4 to 5-year-old kid.
All my kids are good.
Okay. What can we see?
They're laying down.
Okay, I believe you.
Don't want me mad. But I have them all taken out in my room.
Okay. Okay.
Negative. Just on the brother of Christopher Rodriguez and his girlfriend, Larissa Rodriguez.
Let me know. Fine.
All right. Hello, kids. All right. All right.
Apparently Larissa has...
What's your name, Mel?
Apparently Larissa has 9 other children and she told the other...
Is there, I mean, a reason why?
Hold on. You have any ID or anything?
She said she has 9.
It's like 4 in that room up there. Watch the walls. How many kids do you have, man?
I have 9 altogether.
Okay.
But I have some that don't live with me. But these are the ones that do live with me.
Okay.
Where's Christopher at?
He's in jail. He's been in jail.
He's in jail.
For child support. He's been in there since like October.
Was he here when the dog bit the lady?
Yeah.
That was him, right? Is that him?
Yeah. But he hasn't even been there.
No.
He's been in Medina County. That's why I was surprised when my son came down and said, Mommy, the police are here. I said, huh?
So Christopher's been in jail for how long?
Since October.
Since October.
Yeah. He's been in Medina County. He's been there October 24th.
What's his last name?
Huh?
What's Christopher's last name? Rodriguez?
Mm-hmm.
Is that your husband?
No, we're not legally married.
Gotcha. He's in jail in Medina?
Yeah. He's in Medina County. He's been in there since October 25th. October 24th, October 25th, something like that.
Do you have a child with special needs?
Oh, Jordan? Yes, I do.
How old is Jordan?
Jordan, he is just turned 5.
Where's Jordan at?
He's with his dad. He's going to be visiting for the holiday. He's not here with us right now, for the holiday.
Where's Dad at?
In Texas. He's not even here. Is that who you guys are pertaining to?
Maybe, possibly.
What was the call mainly about?
Just checking the welfare.
Oh. I get these all the time because I got ignorant ones who want to sit there and call on me.
Do you know, what's his dad's name, Jordan's dad?
Patrick. Pat.
Do you have a number to Patrick? Can we reach that?
We need a list of
No,
all your
right
kids'
now.
names.
A list? Can I get a pen and paper?
Sure. Or you could tell me.
Here, I'll write it down because it's a lot easier.
Okay. Firstborn, all the way down the line. Supposedly Jordan is with Dad
Yes,
in
he's
Texas.
with Dad.
We can call him?
Yeah.
Huh? Right now, I don't have the number because he was going to get a new number.
Okay. But he's got family, so we can
Yes.
talk to them.
I mean, I don't know what this is pertaining to.
Just to the young oldest to the youngest. And if you know the date of birth, put it under there. That'll be fine. How long you been living here?
I've been here about two years.
2 years? Okay.
1 month, 3.
Why? Hmm? Oh, yeah? Yeah.
The oldest ones that they're probably talking about too is Angel Gilbert. I haven't had custody of them since years ago. Do you need that information too? Or?
Well, you say you had 9.
All your kids.
Those, I'm only missing, okay.
You got 9, you're a little short. A couple short there.
Okay, I'm going to put the ones that I don't have right here, non-custody.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And where are they at?
These ones are, he went to foster care. One's with the grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have the other one who Daddy took custody.
Okay.
So.
How long you live here, man?
I've been here
2 years. What's that? Your name? She said her name. He said it was the boy girl.
She says the girl.
Oh, she.
Mimi.
Your Mimi?
No, that's Tati.
Oh.
Do I have to put what they?
Tell me something about Patrick. Do you know anything about Patrick?
He stays in Texas. I mean, we were together for about 2 years.
What's his last name?
Strong. We wasn't together actually too long. He was just like an internet thing.
Do you know his? Do you know his like when he was his birth date or anything?
No, that I did not. You know, we.
What's Jordan's last name?
Rodriguez. He took it from me.
You got a phone number here, man?
His phone just recently disconnected. Oh, my phone, 216-456-4301.
Okay. So how many kids, you have these children to live with you, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 live with you.
Yes.
Do you live here by yourself, or do you
Yeah,
live with
technically,
anyone?
I'm here by myself. I mean, Chris comes and goes, you know, back and forth.
Chris is the one that's in jail right now.
Yes, he's been in jail since October 24th, or October 25th.
And that's in Medina County.
Yes.
What was he arrested for?
He was arrested for child support.
Oh, child support?
Yes.
Jeez. How many kids did he have?
He has one.
One?
And he's 15. Yeah.
Oh, the other boy is 15? Okay. Okay. Man, I would really love to get in touch with Jordan.
Okay. Is there any way I can give you, when I find the number, to contact you? I got 2.
Any of the kids disabled?
He's not really disabled, but that's the one that's with his dad.
No?
No.
Oh, what do you mean?
He's just SSI. He can't talk.
How old is he?
He just turned 5.
Okay.
That's the one.
Where does he live?
He's
Texas.
staying. He doesn't live there, but he's just visiting for the holiday.
What? In Texas?
Yeah.
And where he usually lives here?
Yeah.
Okay. What? You got a family members in Texas?
That's why I said, is there a number or something where I can contact you guys?
How long has he been in
No,
Texas?
you can get it now. It's not a big deal. We'll wait. Right, Kenny?
How long has he been in Texas?
He's been only over there for a couple weeks. Because he goes over there to, you know, visit and stuff like that.
Wait a minute, he goes where to?
No.
He goes.
Yeah.
He goes.
I want to say sperm donor, but.
He goes to Texas to visit.
Yeah. He goes there. He went there last year. Went there this year.
Okay.
Because he just goes to visit family out there. But I mean, other than that, he's here.
So Jordan has family members in Texas.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Do you know any numbers or how to get in touch with anybody who actually lives in Texas?
I mean, right now, his phone just got disconnected.
What's his address?
I'm waiting for him to call me.
What's his address?
I don't know.
You just didn't
personally.
send the kid to who knows who, right?
I mean, no. I mean, I don't know the address personally because me and his dad don't really associate like that.
But you let him go with him, right?
Right. He just had his phone disconnected. He's going to be calling me with the phone number. So, and that's the only way I can contact him.
Sum up the video, Larissa lied and told police that Jordan was in Texas with his father since December 2nd. Remember, when they found Jordan, they put him that he passed away September of 2017. And she was saying that he left December 2nd, 2017 with his aunt. But I'm flabbergasted, y'all, because she literally was like, oh no, I don't know his number. I don't know their address. There's no way I can get a hold of them. And it was just like, are you freaking kidding me, you little lying ass? Around this time, Larissa's family and some of her children knew that she had something to do with Jordan's disappearance. I'm going to enter a news clip here of her oldest son begging his mother to tell them where Jordan was.
Little boy was deprived of his life at a really early age. Justice will be served. That's promised.
An emotional night outside the home of 5-year-old Jordan Rodriguez.
A candlelight vigil for him as his mother sits in jail, charged with his murder. Our James Girardi was at that vigil earlier tonight where we heard from Jordan's oldest brother for the very first time.
And he has a message for his mother in jail.
Ma, I just wanted to let you know that I still love you, but I want you to tell me the truth and what really happened.
19-year-old Angel Alvarez is Larissa Rodriguez's firstborn son. Flanked by his aunt and his father, he begged his mother to tell him what happened.
Tell me the truth. I'm your oldest son. You never lied to me. I don't know why you would lie. And I just wanted to tell you I love you, and I'm going to get justice for Jordan. He's my little brother. You're my mother, but I have to do what I have to do.
A family torn. A mother they know and love, now charged in the murder of her 5-year-old son, Jordan Rodriguez.
We're bound to get justice for Jordan. This is what this all boils down to. At the end of the day, it's for Jordan. But Larissa, I love you. To bless this family in the name of Jesus.
Outside the home where the remains were found Tuesday, buried in the backyard, friends, family, and strangers came to help those hurting the most. Anna Rodriguez is Jordan's aunt and Larissa Rodriguez's sister.
There definitely was a devil here. Definitely was a devil here because she helped me raise mine.
Court documents revealing this week Jordan's body showed multiple signs of abuse, including broken ribs. The 5-year-old developmentally disabled boy lived here with 4 of his 8 siblings. His mother's boyfriend, Christopher Rodriguez, lived here as well. Investigators are working to build a case against him too, though he has not yet been charged.
That was James Girardi reporting. The medical examiner is still working to officially identify the remains found in that backyard as well as a cause of death.
I will be putting in Larissa's interrogation video here.
Understand your rights?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Some things have changed overnight. We did a lot more work on this. We just have a few questions. When this all happened, did you have a cell phone back then?
When this all happened, yeah, I just can't remember what number I had.
What kind of phone was it?
I had it was the same one as my daughter, the Samsung Galaxy on 5.
What color is it?
Silver and black.
Okay. Did you also have like a Samsung phone with a white backing? Like a brand new one?
Oh, I know which phone you're talking about. That we found, my daughter had found that. It was between 2 phones that was in the house. There was a bigger one.
Well, this one was found underneath your back porch.
Oh, probably my kids. Probably took it and threw it back there.
Which kid?
I don't know. Probably one of my little ones.
Why would they throw it
Because
back?
they play with it.
Oh.
It don't work. You know, we found it and if we couldn't get it to break the code or whatever. Actually, Mariana found it when we was walking to the gas station. So we couldn't break the code or nothing, so we just let the kids play with it.
Okay. When I tell you some things have changed is we did talk with the coroner.
Okay.
And they finished their initial examination. And there are some problems. The problems being Jordan had an old left wrist fracture. His left wrist was broken at some point and it was healed. It healed on its own. How? That's something you need to tell us. Jordan also has 3 fractured left ribs that healed on their own and a fractured right rib that healed on its own. And these are all injuries that were healing on their own without medical help, which means he was in a lot of pain for a very long time, and you're not being honest about what was happening to this kid.
See, what happened, I mean, I personally didn't, but I was scared myself, okay?
Scared of?
I think talking to my sisters yesterday actually opened up my eyes a little bit and made me realize I should not be the only one taking full blame for this. I never put my hands on my kids. You can ask any of them. And a lot of people used to tell me maybe that's why sometimes your kids don't listen. You know, sometimes I need to be more rough on them, but that's just not in me. To sit here and...
I don't want to be that mother either. I just don't want to be that mother either.
Right, I don't. I mean, I was like that when I was little. I can't be that type of mom to sit there and expect you, okay, my kid may do something wrong, but I see other discipline, you know, timeouts, you know, corner, you know, bedroom, you know, sometimes my Help Me Grow worker even seen it herself. You know, no matter how bad my little ones can act up, I never had that in me to hit my kids. But I think I was just so scared because I used to get my ass beat by Chris just because I defended my kids. My daughter, my oldest son can tell you, my older son had to pull a knife on him because he put his hands on me the way he did.
How long were you and Chris together?
About 2 years.
Okay. And he was living with you from day one?
Yeah.
Our understanding is that you were dating someone else who moved out and you met Chris online?
I was with Jake.
Okay.
But Jake wasn't in the house for more than 2 weeks.
Right.
Since when
and he
I
left
first
and then
moved
Chris came in?
Right.
And you met him online?
Yes.
All right.
So, if I could interject.
Yeah, please.
So what I see happening is like, I think March of 2016, you were going through the process of trying to enroll Jordan in a class that's specific for him. But is it Chris that doesn't want him to do this? Or is... Because what I'm reading...
I did try to get him enrolled in school and stuff like that.
Because what I read was Jordan would have benefited from an environment with children like him. He is autistic, most probably.
Yes. And what I did was, it was almost through the year. So when I talked to the development for the school, I said, well, they either said, well, I could send him now or send him next year. I preferred that he would have started the following year, so that way he's got a whole entire full year. And that's what my, intentions was, to send him to school.
To put your kid at the front of the class,
Yes.
as opposed to the...
Yes.
I did the same thing with my daughter.
Yes, because I wanted my son to actually be around other kids, to actually learn and to actually,
Sure,
you know.
want some coffee or water?
I'll take some.
Coffee?
Yeah.
Cream and sugar?
Yes, please. And I was doing what I can, you know, and if you notice, none of my kids or nothing ever went through this until I got with Chris.
I know. That's why, listen, Nina, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm a mother and you're a mother.
And
I know you're
my sisters made me realize that, you know, like.
Listen, I know you had a horrible upbringing.
Terrible.
I know. So the most that we can do now is to, I understand where you're at, okay? But I have to press you on certain points. That's my job.
I understand.
And it's as a human being, I know it hurts you. I can see that it hurts you.
Ever since day one, ever since everything happened, I wanted to reach out. I wanted to tell somebody. The day it happened, the first person I wanted to talk to was my counselor. I wanted to tell her what happened just because I was just so scared. I needed somebody to confide in.
Okay.
And I don't have that support.
When you say the day that it happened, do you mean?
The same exact day.
September 21st?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I needed somebody to talk to. And in my heart, something told me that he did something to my son.
You have to make the coffee here if you want something.
Okay, thank you. In my heart, I just knew something was wrong. I just knew it. Like, you know, okay, if he can hit on me and he can discipline my other kids, but he wouldn't discipline them like he did Jordan.
How does he discipline Jordan?
It was just different. I mean, as far as, you know how you said the sock in the mouth, none of my kids got the sock in the mouth, only Jordan. And I used to sit there and tell him, don't do that. You know, I used to get yelled at. My kids all can tell you I defended all my kids. And that's where a lot of me and his arguments came in, because I did defend my kids. And that's where he would put his hands on me. He even put a sock in my mouth when I tried to yell for help. I felt like I was stuck. And every time something like that would happen, he would always bring up and make me feel like guilty, like I was the one who did that to Jordan. And I didn't hurt Jordan.
Well, so what, let me just say this. We've seen pictures. Up until Christopher Rodriguez comes in the picture, he's a healthy child.
And he was healthy.
He was healthy. However, for whatever reason, he focused on that child. I don't know what that reason was.
And he tried to keep everybody away from me. I couldn't have friends. I couldn't have family. I couldn't have nobody.
I may have missed this. Did he actually physically abuse him? Did you see him?
A few times that I've seen, yes.
Okay. And what did he do?
He would smack him. He would, I mean, me personally, didn't see him fracture anything. I didn't, wasn't around, or if I went to the store, or if I, went out with my kids or something.
You won't see a fracture.
You won't. That's why it shocked me, because
unless it's a compound fracture.
Right, because
you won't see it.
My son had a fracture when he jumped off the bicycle. He was on the bike with my older son. So I know, I took him to the hospital for that fracture.
But a rib fracture? You won't see that.
But see, I wish I would, it was just like Jordan trying to tell me something. When I told you that when he finally took his last breath, it was like he was mad. I seen in his face like he just wanted to tell me something. But I just didn't know what that something was. And with him being speechless, I mean, I couldn't understand what it was. But I could tell it was just something so mad, angry. And I thought he was trying to cuss me out or something. But I took it as he was just trying to tell me, Mom, I love you, I gotta go, But in my heart, something told me that he had something to do with this. Because every time after this happened, I just hated him. I hated everything. I just couldn't stand to be around him.
Did you ever ask him to leave?
I did. And he told me that if I was to call the cops, that he had the gas in his name, that they would tell me that he resides there, that he can't leave. So I just felt like I was trapped. And I even told him, this is my house. You have to go. But then he always threw up, well, if he leaves, he's calling the cops and he's blaming everything on me. Which I didn't hurt Jordan. I take the fault for not taking him to the doctor. Yes, that was my fault. And my other fault was doing
Tissues, Ray. Bring tissues, Ray.
Was given the idea to do that. But I didn't hurt Jordan.
I know.
It's not in my heart to hurt Jordan.
I know that. Do you know Jordan looked just like you? He looked just like you. Same face.
There was not one day ever since that happened I never thought about it.
I didn't know if you wanted cream, but...
Because Jordan didn't deserve this.
What do you want?
Tissues.
Oh, okay.
Please. Jordan's not, because we have your DNA, he's not identified yet. So I'm hopeful that later today he will be positively identified. You asked me if you could see him. I'm gonna steal one of these because you're starting to get to me.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
listen, and my sisters made me realize a lot. My sister, and I mean, I haven't talked to them in years. And they said, why are you taking the blame for this guy? And I admit, in my past, that's part of one of my counseling. I've had bad relationships, and it's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's a pattern, and that was something me and my counselor was working on. And this just happened to be another one that just...
Well, he might have been the worst one.
Yeah. I think it was.
You do know we're going to go talk to Chris. Have you talked to him at all during this time?
No. No.
Talked to him before you were put in jail?
I talked to him. It was the same day you guys all came. I mean, not you guys, but when they came to the house, and to me, it just seemed like he didn't care.
What did you tell him?
I told him...
He was in jail at the time?
Yes, he called me about 6 o'clock that evening, because that's when he got supposedly off of work, from in the work or whatever he did in the kitchen. And yeah, he's like, what's going on? I guess because the detectives went to talk to him. And when they went to talk to him, I guess they were asking him questions. He didn't specifically go into... He just wanted to know more about what happened on my side.
What you said.
Right. So when I sat there and I told him, and he was just like, he didn't seem like I was. You know, like I was scared, I was nervous, I'm, you know, shaking and spooked, and you know, he just seemed so calm. And, you know, like...
Did he tell you what to say, what you should say, what you shouldn't say?
No. That's why when you guys came and say, now he changed up his story to something about December 2nd, that's because he heard me say it over the phone. He didn't know anything about what I told the police. But
so when we confront him with Jordan's injuries, is he going to tell us otherwise, that you're the one who did it?
A woman can't do it hit that much harder. And you know what? Anybody can tell you that. And I say that...
That's not true.
I mean, he's a lot stronger
than
I am. And me personally, you could even ask my older son. My older son will tell you. No, Angel.
Angel?
My older son will be the one to, if anything, between my older son and my oldest daughter.
Do you know how we would get a hold of Angel? I mean, do you know that number? Does he live on Wade Avenue with his dad? Or do they live someplace else in the first district?
His dad moved. I could try to get my little sister to contact Angel.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Angel right now, they message through Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
But I remember him leaving my oldest daughter a message with a phone number.
The oldest daughter is Mariana?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't even know if the detectives got her phone. I mean, I tried calling, she's not answering. So I don't know if the detectives got it for like evidence or something like that.
Yeah, I don't have an answer. I don't think they do, but we'll find out.
Okay, because I've been trying to call her just to see how she's been doing.
Well, I think right now she's in custody with foster care. So I think right now it's probably in her best interest that they keep the kids away from all this. Give them a break.
Right.
Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
New Year's is coming up. Let them enjoy the holidays. They're going through enough right now. Because we're going to sit down with Mariana and have a talk with her too, but we're trying to give her some time to.
And can you guys at least tell her so that way she doesn't feel like she's scared, she doesn't have to talk? Can you guys please tell her that you guys know that I did open up and tell them and tell you guys?
We will tell her that you told us.
Because she doesn't open up too much. And
Well, she's probably older than her years.
Yeah.
She'd be more comfortable talking with Detective Remington?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
I mean, not only that, but at the same time, if she knows that mom opened up and mom, you know, was honest and told, then she'll feel like it's okay for her to open up, that she doesn't have to feel scared that he's going to do something.
Okay.
So, do you want to know about the children? So you have 4 older children.
They
split them 2 and 2.
2 and 2. And one of the dads was just here yesterday. They came and saw me yesterday.
Okay.
But I kind of almost refused their visit, but I didn't. Just because something told me it would make me feel better.
So, the older children are 1 hour from the city of Cleveland. They're together, 2 and 2 in 2 different homes.
Girls with the girls and the boys with the boys?
I don't know that specifically. All I know is that Erica Armstrong and Bill Rozier, I think.
I don't know who that is.
So they're in charge of their placement. That family is keeping them away from the television. So they're not seeing what's going on. Ray and I decided that the state of Ohio mandates that DCFS talks with them in the first week. We decided, between the 2 of us, that in the first week, we don't want to talk with them. Because you wouldn't believe this based on our interview yesterday, but I spent 10 years in sex crimes and child abuse. I want to give your children a chance to decompress, to have normal holidays.
Right.
And then
to let this, you know, pass over through the holiday.
This is traumatic, and when they find out that Jordan is deceased, it will further be traumatic. So, in their first visit, a counselor from Frontline will be with them, and they will explain to them that Jordan is deceased. And then Ray and I would like to sit down with Mariana because she's the oldest, and it's my understanding, you can correct me if my understanding is wrong, she was close with Jordan. And it's also my understanding that Mariana may have been touched physically by Christopher Rodriguez.
No, not in my knowledge.
Okay.
Mariana, and I know that for a simple fact because Mariana was always with me.
Okay.
Mariana's a mama's girl.
Okay.
She's never been alone with him.
That's good.
She's always, every time I go to the store, it's Mom, I'm going with you. You know, so that for a fact, I know.
Has she ever witnessed
She
anything between you and Chris?
No. I mean, are you talking about like
sex?
No.
Okay.
No, none of my kids.
Okay.
None of my kids. I'm not that type of mom where we sit there and make it. You know,
I don't think you are,
but
if he's a predator, in other words, if he's attracted to you because he's got a home with you, he's got somebody putting a roof over his head and feeding him, and he's really attracted to kids, then he's playing you to get to her. And
Well,
she may be afraid to tell you that.
Okay, as a mom, will you guys look into that for me?
I absolutely will.
I mean, because I personally don't think that, but who knows, you know? And I say that because I was, you know, touched when I was little, when I was 5 years old, by my foster brother, my 18-year-old foster brother. And they always say, if it happened to you, it could be possible it happened to your child. And I just want to make sure that that's cleared.
Well, I want to give her the floor to share that with me, if it has happened. And she has a unique relationship with her brothers and sisters in that.
And I also say that too, because her bond with Chris wasn't too. Mariana's one. She doesn't cling on to everybody, you know, as far as males. You know, as far as mom, yeah, she's very close to that. She's always been with me. Dad's never been there, you know. She's never really had a father figure to step up and be that father figure, which she thought was Chris until the day Chris put his hands on me, you know. And it's just like, that's why their relationship wasn't too, until kind of like towards the end-ish, you know, like recently, to where her bond is okay. You know, it's not like...
How far into the relationship are you and Chris before he puts his hands on you?
I would say, because it's technically not 2 years until this February. So it's been a year... About a year, right? About? No.
Well, I think he comes into the picture in February of 2016.
No, March.
Okay.
He came in March.
Okay.
It was
2015 or 16?
16, because this is going to be 18 in a minute.
Yeah. So
it would be
so it would be actually 2 years in March.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been, what, about a year?
So you're a year in when he puts his hands on you the first time?
When he finally put his hands on me the first time was when his brother came into town. And I'm the type where, okay, if you make plans, at least make them ahead of time. You knew your brother was coming into town. And if we had plans, you're going to stop our plans just to be with your brother. You know, and I kind of got upset because he said, oh, come on, let's go play some basketball. You know, you complain about our time. Mm-hmm. You know, now that we have our time, you know, where, you know, kids are, you know, it's just family, mm-hmm. you know? And then when we do have our time, you want to go run off with your brother. And so, I mean, I addressed it to him. No attitude, no nothing, you know, and he just got pissed. He just got real furious.
Which brother?
It's his brother, Scotty, the one that's in Pakistan or wherever he is. He just got real pissed, started hitting me, and, you know, just literally that day he gave me a black eye.
Does Scotty know about this?
No. I mean, every time we got into it, he would always call his brother, but always make me look like I'm the bad one.
So
but he knows,
his brother about
but he knows his brother. Come on now. Sometimes he would get mad because his brother would defend me. So he knows, you know, like situations that we've been through. You know, some things that he's always called them every time. You know, or talk about he's gonna pack up his stuff and leave, and you know, it's just okay. Then leave. I would have been more happy, you know. But maybe all this would have been told and said a long time ago. You know, maybe that would. But with him not leaving, with him threatening me, with him putting his hands on me, it got so bad my son grabbed a knife on him. And I'm sorry, I know this is domestic violence towards me, but I see it as self-defense. He's got a scar on his back because I did it. Self-defending myself, because he went and literally choked me, put me in the kitchen, slammed me against stuff, had a knife in his hand. I found something, I don't know whether it was a screwdriver or something. I just grabbed something
and just got him
Called
right
the police
in the
out to the house. Somebody called. your
No,
son?
nobody.
Right.
Nobody. And that's what gets me is that street is so highly protected by police that why didn't somebody? I mean, I even tried to jump out the window, try to get some help from somebody. I feel like I couldn't even leave my house. And then when I sat there screamed, he put a sock in my mouth. So I couldn't. And then we're sitting there screaming, you know, like I'm screaming, and he's sitting there choking me.
Let me ask you this. Is he, what you described to me about Jordan losing weight in his arms while developing a pot belly, that's malnutrition?
See, you can, even when you talk to my daughter, that's why I thought something was wrong going on with his kidney.
Okay, but
because he was losing the weight, he was doing, you know, but...
I'm not saying you did this. My question is that some sort of discipline that he does to this child?
No.
Does he withhold food from him?
No. That's why none of us ever thought it would have been anything like that. Me, I thought it was his kidney because when he eat, everybody eat. All my kids eat first. I served every single last kid of mine first. And my daughter and my son, anybody can tell you. When I cook big meals. Mm-hmm. And Jordan, he was one to always eat. Mm-hmm. Always. We got pizza, he eats like 5-6 pieces of pizza. And you know, it surprises me because he was like, where do you put it, Jordan? You know, like, I mean, he always ate. That's why it surprised me when he started kind of losing his appetite. And I used to have to sit with him and say, Jordan, you got to at least eat something. At least take a couple bites. Well, you know, because I never had that problem with him.
When does he begin losing his appetite?
I don't know the specific date. I mean...
Roughly.
2 months.
Summertime, springtime, wintertime?
I could say it was about late, maybe summer, early summer. You know, he started losing appetite. I got him to at least drink something. I don't, you know, like some behaviors where I saw where I'm called for. Sometimes Jordan will wake up. I mean, remember how I told you, like, with his rocking?
That's a signature. I don't mean to...
No, he's always did that ever since when he was a baby.
That's sort of a signature of children who have spent time in an incubator or children who are autistic. They will rock and self-soothe themselves.
See, that's the first time I heard that. Because I even asked the doctor too, and I was like, why does he do that? You know, I guess...
Self-soother.
Because I wasn't there to, you know, rock him and cuddle him, and, you know, until he was 4 months. That was what he used to do. And then used to get up in the middle of the nighttime. I used to, like, he would sleepwalk. So I would, you know, sometimes have to keep an extra eye on him. Because I caught him one time going to the bathroom, getting toilet water and drinking toilet water. And I'm looking like, why is he, you know, like, is he even alert when he's doing this? You know, it would be like certain behavior, you know, like, and I used to have to stop him. He'd go straight to the refrigerator. I don't even know if he's, like, awake when he's doing this or if he's sleeping or, you know, it's just things that I had to watch out with him. And he would just, like, get into anything and everything. And I noticed that when he did it, even after Jordan was gone, my other son was doing it. My other little son, my 4-year-old. And I'm looking like, is it because he watched Jordan do it? Or why is he doing the same thing that Jordan was doing?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I mean, is it a behavioral thing? I mean, it's just something that I recognize that. Jordan used to do that. You know, like, and it was just, and Jordan was perfectly fine. It was just something I felt like in that house too. Like it was not really wanting us there. You know, like a sense of something. And I guess I don't know if you guys heard about this, but I found out after I moved there. Because when I went to see the house, it had a caution thingy wrapped around it. Kind of like on the front bush. And I looked like maybe it was just for a Halloween decoration or something.
But the neighbors and somebody had told me that actually a father had killed his son. Or something happened there. So it kind of like, you know, like, wait a minute, you know, this house is just like bad luck. You know, and I mean, Jordan's behaviors didn't start till we moved there. In that house. I never seen Jordan behavior act any different. You know, his behavior just changed. You know, it's just like I had to observe him a lot more there. You know, things that he was doing, I've never seen him do.
Well, to be fair, by the time you move there, he's really developing. An autistic child may be a little bit delayed.
Right, and he was 3 months delayed.
He's probably even more delayed than that. If we didn't get him into school. But he's developing into himself at age 3. So, is it a coincidence? I don't know. Is there something to do with this house? Perhaps.
But after you know, the things happened with Jordan, my other little one, he was 3, when he was doing the same thing Jordan was doing.
Right. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Is there, obviously you believe in spirits.
I've went through a couple things myself, so that's why, like, I mean,
I believe in spirits too, good and bad.
I've actually had one.
What kind of spirit is Christopher Rodriguez?
He's a Roman Catholic. So
I'm not talking about his religious affiliation.
Like, what do you mean? He believes in St. Michael.
Does he have a good soul with light in it, or does he have a black soul?
I say he's got a little bit of both. But when his anger comes out, it's real nasty. It's terrible.
So he's an angry black cloud.
Yeah, I could say he went through a lot of things too in his life, but I mean, I've never been with somebody so angry like that. I mean,
everybody sitting here in this room has been through some horrible things in their life.
Right.
And
I mean, I even did too. But I mean,
but you didn't. I turn them around to your kids.
No, never.
But
never.
The difference is, and this is my experience of 10 years working over there. Those ain't his kids.
Right.
His mouth may say, "These are my kids."
Right. But his action speaks.
But at the end of the day, that's some other man's kid. And if he's interfering with my time, with you,
right. And his thing was always, oh, you know, your baby daddy's gonna try to come back, and this and this and that, and oh, that's my kid, and you know, it was always just something with him. I mean,
so he's jealous. In addition to all that, he's a jealous guy.
Very, very, and that's one reason why I don't have my Facebook, is because I get compliments about how pretty I am and this and this and that, and all I said was thank you. It was a compliment. That's what you say when somebody gives you a compliment, right? Thank you.
Right.
There was no conversation other than thank you, and I had to hear it.
Male or female? Could be.
There was one time everything was perfectly fine. He was sitting up in the room. Says that the ghost spirit in the house, the female ghost spirit that we have in our house, sat there and told him to look at my Facebook. Looking on somebody in the past.
We'll see if our 9 o'clock can set up the other one.
It was somebody in the past that we never did anything. We were friends.
Okay.
Nothing, and I got accused.
Listen, I have a really unique perspective into what your life is like. There's almost no female that I've ever met that hasn't had an unwanted sexual experience. And what those unwanted sexual experiences create are broken souls. So, I completely understand the position that you're in. And if you want to continue this conversation later today, I'm happy to do that. If you want me to pull you back over here, I'm happy to do that. I feel for where you're at, because no woman should ever have to bury their child, and I think you did the best you could with what you had, but that guy was using you.
And that's why I told my sisters too. I said, if I ever get up out of here, I'm not going back. My sister says that they would help me get back on my feet, do what I have to do, because I was always had my own. Always had my kids. My kids have never been a day without me. This is my first Christmas without my kids.
At the end of the day, and I understand how you feel about if I ever get up out of here. I don't know what they're going to charge you with. My suspicion is it's going to be murder B. That's my suspicion.
And what gets me is he's not going to get charged for anything.
Oh, now that's not going to be true. And that's not going to be true.
And what is murder B?
It's it's causing the death of another without a plan to actually do it.
And how much time and what am I really looking at? Can you tell me?
I can't.
Or just like a kind of, like a...
I would say, honestly, I would say probably double digits.
What's that?
At least in the neighborhood of a double digit. Now, I don't know what happens later on down the line. And I'm not in charge of that. I can only tell you that I had one other scenario that was very similar to this, and that particular female is doing 8 years. But I would submit this to you. Were it me in your shoes, I would be thankful that my children are in homes where the adults can take care of them. This is not going to prohibit you from having conversation with your children. This is not going to prohibit you from having a place in your children's life. You will still have communication with them. And you have a unique opportunity here. It doesn't matter what you do to your children. They will always love you. The important thing here is that you tell the truth, all the truth, even the truth as they see it. You ask for forgiveness and you move forward. Christopher, and I promise you, I know you wanted to punch me in the nose yesterday, and I accept that.
I was being sarcastic. I'm so sorry.
You weren't being sarcastic. You were angry. And it's my job.
But I'm not a fighter.
It's my job to make you angry.
I think I kind of got off that way because I'm so used to, like, being, like, when the guys come at me like that, it just, I don't know, it's just like...
Do you understand that it's your eternal need to be with a guy that is attracting guys like that?
And that's what I need to change.
Well, and this is a unique opportunity to do that. I
have
heal
to do for
that
myself.
part of you.
Right.
So kids who are touched when they're kids wind up either hyper promiscuous or they wind up not at all promiscuous. It's up to you what you decide you were. But at the end of the day, both camps only feel good about themselves if they have a significant other. You have to heal that. You have to be comfortable with you. I don't need anyone else. I'm at peace with being alone, and only when I'm healthy will I attract someone else who's healthy. And I can say that because I'm 50. And I've been you. There's a reason why I was so good at what I did across the hall. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
You still are. You do a very good job.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I've been you. As a kid, my life wasn't as Not that you can compare them.
Say it wasn't so gravy.
But my point is, everybody has a story, right? It wasn't so gravy. But I had a good mom. I had a really good mom. And I don't think you did. And I don't think you had a great dad either.
I really didn't know my dad. He passed away when I was 5. I mean, I really didn't know too much about him. I knew my mom. You know, I got to meet her because I grew up in foster care myself. But I had got to meet her when I was 14. She gave up custody of all of us. We got lucky because we had a foster home that took all 3 of us,
right.
All 3 sisters.
Right.
And I seen it as they mistreated us too. So I can't say all foster homes and all adopted homes are the greatest. But they kicked me out and gave me back to my mother at the age of 14, which the courts told me that they wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was court papered. And my mom was out there, drugs, might as well say prostitution, because she was out there. And she didn't have a great life herself.
Mm-hmm. And she had a horrible ending.
Yeah. And
So
I
this
remember
is
everybody
your-
telling me that, you know what, hopefully I don't end up like her.
This is your unique opportunity to change the end of your life.
Because I could have been dead.
Of course you
I
could
could have been dead.
And
it used to get him mad because sometimes, even after the situation with Jordan, it used to get me mad because he put his hands on me and choked me. And I had knots in my head and I said, I just wish I was with Jordan. And he said, what did you say? I said, I wish I was with Jordan. I wish I could take Jordan's place for him. You know, and he was just like, you know, because he didn't like the fact that I used to bring him Jordan. Oh, you know, you don't need nobody hearing, you know, what happened and this and this and that. He would get pissed off.
What do you think he did to Jordan?
I think that morning, technically, something had to happen. I don't know what it could have been. Something had to happen because Jordan wouldn't just collapse like that. You know, I don't know if maybe he might have pushed him, shoved him, punched, or could have even punched him.
Does he punch him?
Who knows? No, I've never seen him. But I mean, if you're talking about any type of fractures, I mean, who's to say?
There's a big difference between punching a child in the face where you're going to see the mark, or punching a child.
I'm going to interview the other one now.
Okay. Punching a child in the rib cage, and no one sees that. So what I'm saying to you is, this guy's a street dude. He knows how to hit.
Right.
He knows how to hit somebody in soft places with a hard object and not leave a mark. So what did he put a kidney shot on that boy? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Who's to say?
What that he was pissed off at that kid for whatever reason, puts a kidney shot on the good kidney, and it's lights
And it's
out.
shut down.
Yeah. So now we could be very likely leaning toward a situation where Jordan was beaten to death based upon all these pre-mortem injuries that are in different stages of healing.
And something told me, I don't know what it was, it's just a feeling that he had something to do with this. Because I not once, ever, and as you've seen for yourself, pictures and everything, I've always posted, my kids were always healthy, I've always took care of my kids. I never hit my kids. Everybody used to tell me, even the officer at the house, as you can, he's like, maybe you need a spanking, you know, and that's not in me to do that. You know, when I was little, I got hit with extension cords. I got hit with boards. I had to kneel on rice on a carpet. And I told myself, those are things I never want my kids to go through. Nothing.
Hey, I don't want to be that mom either.
That's horrible.
I don't want to be that mom. I don't want to compel my child through fear. So,
and I remember he always used to tell me, well, you need to discipline your kids and this and this and that. And it's just like, I'm doing my best to discipline my kids.
What is his definition of discipline?
His, I guess, is more like spanking and I don't know what he considers discipline.
Did you see him put the sock in Jordan's mouth and put him in a corner?
One time I did, yes. And I didn't like it. I didn't.
Did he make Jordan sit in the closet?
Not that I know of. Not that I know, but and can't no say when I step out or, you know, something like that. But as far as the closet goes, I know my kids play in the closet. That's all I know. Mm-hmm. You know, my kids love to sit there and hang on the little bar thingy. And one time I caught my little one just sitting on the shelf up there. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know, typical kids.
Playhouse.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as that, I don't know. But my Jordan didn't deserve any of this. None.
Well, and what I suggested to you yesterday is that the only way you heal yourself from all of this is to take responsibility for your side of the street. Meaning, if I drank, if I doped, if I didn't keep house, if I didn't put sheets on your bed, if I didn't feed you, if I was overwhelmed, if I didn't do my part to take care of you, then I own that. And
right, just like I take the responsibility. I didn't take him to the doctor. That was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't call the ambulance when he needed it. That was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I also had part in putting him there because I just had a baby. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and I'm feeling depressed. I diagnosed with PTSD,
mm-hmm.
you know. And
probably postpartum.
And, you know, I didn't know what to do. You know, I just got scared. And I just was like, you know, and I wasn't ready to let Jordan go because I've been through so much with Jordan. You know, by myself, even before I got with Chris, I was taking him to the doctor. It was a lot, but I was working on getting there because my social worker, my counselor has a preemie, so she was working with me on some things that I could do with Jordan.
Well, let me ask you this. I don't know who Patrick Strawn is. My understanding from you is this was a one-time liaison with him or a couple of time liaison with him?
Yeah, and then I got pregnant and here comes Jordan and I didn't want nothing to do with him. He didn't want nothing to do with me.
Okay.
So I told him, I sent him back and I told him, you need to go to Texas, back home where, you know, where you are.
So, but my question to you is, not to cut you off, and I know you need to talk about this stuff to get it out. The law says that he has a right to Jordan because he's the father. What that he never comes forward or we don't find him?
He's not going to come forward. He's not.
Then whom would you want to have Jordan? Michelle?
My sister, and I talked to her last night.
Michelle or Anna?
Michelle.
Okay.
Because she's more responsible. Michelle's more responsible. She's the oldest.
So, in the absence of Patrick Strawn, you would want her to have Jordan's remains?
Yes.
And to follow through with what she wanted to do, which was a cremation?
Yes.
And to divide the remains between his siblings?
I think that would be best. I talked to her yesterday, and I told her I was going to let you know that, you know, because we all agree, he's never been there. He never wanted no part of Jordan. And even on Facebook, I could even show you from old messages. You know, I sent him pictures of when he was in the NICU. Mm-hmm. I told him when he was born. I didn't have to tell him. Mm-hmm. You know, those are things that even I try to connect with his sister. I didn't get nothing from neither.
Well, what if
one
they come back and they do want him? Then what?
I doubt it. I mean,
but if they do, then there's nothing we can do. I hope not, for your sake, and
I don't. Me personally, I don't think they will. they've never stepped up before. So I'm thinking, we just gotta think I'm just gonna have my sister do everything until further notice. If he does come through, if he doesn't, I don't know.
Okay.
But
do you have any questions for me at this juncture?
No. But would I still be able to see him or no?
So
to at least say my last, finals to him. If I can't, I'll just, say him in prayer or whatever to myself. But I think I just kind of need that, closure.
I don't suspect that they're done with their examination at this point. And I think that probably...
They're not going to.
They're probably not going to allow you that. And I don't think that you want to see photos of him. You actually physically want to see your child.
That's very true.
Is there any other questions you have for me at this juncture?
So they're gonna go ahead and charge me today?
Yes. I'm going to charge you today at some point, and you'll probably go to court in the morning, and then in the morning we're going to talk to the other half of the equation in Medina County.
Good luck with that one.
Well, I really don't care if he speaks or not. And I want you to know that I helped to arrange the visit with your sisters.
Thank you. That helped a lot.
You can't go through this alone. And what I would say to you is I've had members of my own family do big chunks of time for some really fucked up shit.
And they told me, Larissa, you've never had a record. You shouldn't even be here.
Well, this is...
And now I feel bad because my little sister, she's taking it hard.
Well...
And I know that she feels it's her fault. And it's not her fault.
I assured her that the other half of the equation will be held responsible for his part in it. Because it's undeniable that when he comes into the picture, that this child's life changed irrevocably. So,
because I was in plenty other relationships before him and nothing happened.
I'll be right back.
Larissa did not have a care and disregarded that they had abused Jordan so bad that this time he did not wake up. She had so many chances to take him to the hospital or doctor, but did not care to. She is a despicable human. Not human, a monster. She failed as a mom, and these type of people should not even be allowed to have children. Y'all, she had 10 kids altogether. In December of 2017, the police dug and found little Jordan's body in the backyard after a tip was made to police. It was a tragedy that Jordan had a mother who failed him. What the coroner found during the autopsy showed extensive abuse. He had broken bones, bruising all over his body. He even had broken ribs. The decomposition was so bad that they couldn't really find the exact cause of death. Larissa and Chris buried Jordan with a diaper over his head and wrapped his body in trash bags. This little boy did not deserve so much disrespect. He had a big family that loved him and would have taken Jordan in on their own. The caseworker that used to go and check up on Jordan and the rest of the kids, her name was Miss Caraballo, and Caraballo paid Rodriguez 50 cents for every dollar of her food stamp benefits. totaling over $10,000 they made with this scheme. She practically paid her to keep her mouth shut and overlook the abuse and conditions of the dwelling and close out the cases. Remember I told you that they would report and then someone would go over there and investigate and then nothing else was said about it and then the case was closed? Well, because this someone that worked for Family, Children, and Services was over there kind of like checking in and auditing like what's going on in her house, and they had some type of scam going on, and Rodriguez paid her to be quiet, I guess. Yeah, something like that, to overlook. Well, anyways, the dwelling the kids were in were so disgusting. So disgusting, y'all. Rats everywhere, that's what the police said. There was cockroaches everywhere. They even saw a child, one of her kids, eating a sandwich that had bugs in it. That is so disgusting. The dwelling was not livable. It was not a place for children, and the kids were not taken care of. Miss Carabala was arrested and sentenced to 3 years in prison for false reporting and grand larceny. This is where we start to get to the end of this case. Little Jordan had a lot of people that celebrated his life, came by to show their respect. He was 4 when he passed away, but they didn't find him until after he was supposed to turn 5. His birthday was in October. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of little details about this case that I didn't really touch on because I didn't think it was that important. But just know that his aunts and his other siblings miss him so much. In January 2018, Christopher Rodriguez was charged along with his girlfriend with 1 count of murder, 1 count of felonious assault, 2 counts of endangering children, and 1 count of gross abuse of a corpse. The charges were filed after law enforcement discovered the body of Jordan buried in their backyard. The trial court imposed a prison term of 11 years for involuntary manslaughter, 8 years for felonious assault, 8 years for endangering children, and 4 years for gross abuse of a corpse. In addition, the trial court ordered that each sentence be served consecutively of each other. So that means Christopher Rodriguez got 28 years in prison altogether, and Larissa was sentenced to 25 years in prison. I'm not sure why Christopher Rodriguez got more because he wasn't even there. I mean, I understand that he took part of the abuse as well, but Jordan died on Larissa's watch and she didn't do anything about it. She didn't be a mom. She knew that he needed a hospital and she neglected to take him. That's my thoughts. The investigators that were really close to the case said that they didn't believe that Christopher or Larissa didn't really show any grief or remorse for their actions. And Christopher and Larissa were passing letters back and forth while they're in prison. And all of those letters get read. And even in the letters, they didn't even really talk about how horrible they felt or what them circumstances were. All they talked about was how much they loved each other and they wanted to get married and you know, sexual things. And it's like they're all in their own little world. This woman did not care about her kids. I'm just so happy that she is behind bars and cannot hurt any more children. And also, remember I told you Larissa was pregnant. She did have her other baby. It was a little girl, and she went right into foster care. I'm just very sorry that these children ended up with a mother like her. A monster. I hope that they're somewhere being treated a lot better. I will be putting a video of the judge and the sentencing.
Thanks.
This is State of Ohio versus Larissa Rodriguez, case number 614697. She's before the court today with her attorneys. The state is also represented. The defendant has previously entered pleas of guilty to count 1, a felony of the 3rd degree, count 2, a felony of the 3rd degree, count 3, a felony of the 4th degree, and count 4, a felony of the 3rd degree. Court has received and reviewed the sentencing memorandums as well as the PSIs. I'm prepared to pass sentence The state is present. Would you like them to go first, or do you want to go first?
I would defer to the state, yes.
Mr. Meyer?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just like the co-defendant in this case, we have filed a sentencing memo and made what we believe are the relevant points. Although I would add one fact that I did not include in that memo. The state has evidence that defendant Rodriguez also used money from the sale of her EBT card to buy gas and to facilitate visits to her boyfriend, who at the time was in prison in Medina County. So she was using the EBT money for personal expenses. I think that's relevant to the overall request that we've made for incarceration of both defendants. The conduct of this defendant is equally serious, but for different reasons. These were her children, and before any other expense in her life got paid, she had a duty of care to provide for her children. And instead, she sold these food stamp benefits for 50 cents on the dollar to meet her own personal needs. This came to light when one of her own children was murdered and buried in her backyard, and as the court has indicated already, most likely would continue into the future had this not been uncovered through the homicide investigation. So again, Your Honor, for the reasons we've outlined in our sentencing memorandum, this is extremely egregious conduct. Children were harmed as a result of these offenses, and the state submits that prison is an appropriate punishment, and probation would truly demean the seriousness of these offenses. Thank you.
Mr. Stannard?
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. I have read the pre-sentence report. It does appear to be accurate. Your Honor, the defendant has admitted her guilt, and she stands ready to accept the punishment that the court deems appropriate at this time, and I thank the court.
Would you like to speak? You don't have to if you don't want to. It's up to you. Mm-hmm. So in your case, you are the parent who's receiving the benefits. And as I just said to Ms. Caraballo, many people get up every single day in this county and go to work, barely make it, do everything they can to feed their children. And they pay taxes, and their money that's taken from them for taxes is given to people like you who are doing less, are less fortunate. And then for you to turn around, make a deal with somebody to take this money and use it for whatever you wanted to personally at the expense of your children is really not only not understandable to me, but it's an affront to everybody in this county who works and helps support those who are less fortunate. It's a slap in the face. You're not entitled to this money. This money was for your children, and you used it for yourself. I don't know that I've seen somebody quite this selfish when it comes to their children and the stealing of food stamps. I've had people in front of me that have stolen food stamps, but it's been more of a situation where they had food stamps, they weren't working, they got a job, and there's problems with when they notified somebody. But this is egregious. You had an intent here to bypass the system. I do think a prison term is appropriate, therefore your sentence is as follows. Count 1, felony of the 3rd degree, 3 years in prison. Count 2, a felony of the 3rd degree, 3 years in prison. Count 3, a felony of the 4th degree, 15 months in prison. Count 4, a felony of the 3rd degree, 3 years in prison. Counts 1 and 4 to be served consecutive to each other for a 6-year sentence. Counts 2 and 3 to be served concurrent to those sentences previously imposed. You're subject to post-release control on each count for up to 3 years. If you violate the conditions of post-release control, the parole board must impose an additional prison term for up to 1/2 of the term that I've imposed. Fines, fees, and costs are waived as you remain indigent and are still a prisoner in the county jail due to your other case. You are subject to restitution order, joint and several with your co-defendant, your amount being $5,029 payable to the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. Any questions from the state?
No,
any questions from the defense?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you.
As well as a family friend, Maria Cruz. They have prepared a statement. On behalf of Jordan's extended family, we want the court to know that we not only loved him, but we attempted to intervene on his behalf of all the children. Those attempts were rebuffed by both Larissa and Christopher. We specifically recall one opportunity that we had to keep Jordan overnight in our home. Jordan, although nonverbal, was able to communicate with us and shared a special family meal seated on his Uncle Jose's lap. Our point in sharing this story, Judge, is to illustrate that Jordan thrived with love and affection. He was delayed in his cognitive development, but he clearly showed his love by running to his Uncle Jose when he came home from work. Jordan was a special, sweet little boy who would have developed and bloomed into a special soul. It is our deepest sadness to have this sweet boy's life extinguished and buried in an unmarked grave. As a family, we love Larissa because she too is our family. However, we can never reconcile ourselves with her deeds. We hope that you take our thoughts into consideration when you hold Jordan's parent accountable today, the Rodriguez and Cruz families. Your Honor, on behalf of the state of Ohio, Jordan Rodriguez was born on November 5th, 2012. He was born 26 weeks premature and had a whole host of medical issues. He was born with one functioning kidneys and other heart and breathing issues. He was enrolled at Cleveland Metropolitan School District, where they actually tried to help with an IEP and help with his developmental delays because he was, of course, nonverbal. Jordan was withdrawn by his mother on September 13, 2016, and told officials at the school that he was moving out of state. Jordan's last medical care ceased on or about November of 2015. Per Larissa, when she was questioned about her child, she said he was out of town, and she repeatedly said that. Then finally, when she was confronted with the fact that that child may have been buried in her backyard, she told Detective Remington, this is what happened on September 21st. While getting the kids ready for school, Christopher brought Jordan in to the bathroom where he was in a semi-conscious state. She tried to revive him with a cold shower, and then she laid him in bed for 24 hours. And she makes it a point to tell Detective Remington that she laid him in bed, in her bed, because she wanted to be close to him. She woke up the next morning of September 22nd, and he was dead. Larissa and the co-defendant Christopher decide to dig a hole which is 4 foot by 4 foot. They wrap him in numerous blankets, garbage bags, duffel bag, and bury him in the backyard. And you will find, Judge, I have provided to this court under seal State's Exhibit A1, 1A to 1H, which are several photographs of the time and energy that it took to bury this child. And the very last photograph is a picture of Jordan when he came out of the bag. He had a diaper on him, he had a pajama top, and some shorts. And the reason for showing you these photographs, Judge, is to show you the time and the energy that it took to bury this child versus dialing 911 for help. And the state is also going to give you State's Exhibit number 2, which is an autopsy. So as she continues to talk to Detective Remington, she claims that that she herself has suffered abuse at the hands of Christopher Rodriguez, and that abuse transferred to her kids. But she would never go any further than that to articulate anything else. So if it wasn't for Scott Rodriguez calling the police on December 19, 2017 from Pakistan and telling Cleveland Police Department that a child was buried in the backyard of her home, this child may still have been there, Your Honor. So I'm going to hand you the State's Exhibit 1A through H and 2, and I'm also going to make note of the fact that you will find in the autopsy that there were healing fractures and acute fractures. The healing fractures, Your Honor, were of the ribs, and specifically there was a wrist fracture, and then there were healing ribs 6, 8, 10 on the right side and 8 on the left side. Those are most consistent with child abuse according to our medical examiner. And the reason...
First, I want to say that the serviceman who made this phone call, it's so important that he did that, and I don't want him to go unrecognized, because I can't imagine the trauma that he had hearing this in a foreign country, that his brother had done something like this, asking his brother to take accountability. And then because his brother doesn't want to be a man, he has to do it, but he did it, and I give him credit for doing that. The other thing that this case, I think, really drives home is that there's insufficient consideration given to the people that work in the criminal justice system. So I want to say to the police, to the detectives Remington and Diaz, I certainly know that your job is very difficult. And I look at these photographs, and it's very hard. And I think you should be recognized more for the difficulty of what you do. And the same to the state. And to the defense, this is equally difficult for you. What we do every day is so hard. People don't give any of us the credit that we deserve for dealing with the horrors that are brought before us. And Mr. Rodriguez, this is a horror. I know as a judge I'm not supposed to show emotion. And in 22 years, I never have. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And I don't understand, Mr. Rodriguez, why you don't want to cleanse yourself and tell the truth about what happened here. And I hope someday you do. Whatever this child's life was supposed to be, you make sure it didn't happen. You and Larissa. I look at friends and family, people who are desperate to have children and want to have families, and you two have babies with no consideration. You just keep having them, disregarding the value of their life, disregarding their purpose in life, like they're less than an object, no regard. I didn't even hear you say you were sorry. I will not accept the recommendation for Mr. Rodriguez. These crimes are horrific. There's no question in my mind that this child was abused. It's clear that you did everything you could, you and Larissa, to hide evidence to protect yourselves. You had every opportunity at so many points to make a difference, to get help, to stop beating somebody, to call the police, to ask for help, to try to take him to the hospital. I have to imagine that at some point you got on the internet and said, how do I bury a body? Because this is unbelievable to me. The level of meticulousness that you went through to not be discovered. I honestly don't know how you live with yourself. I don't know how either one of you live with yourself. The court imposed a sentence as follows. Count 1, involuntary manslaughter, felony of the first degree, 11 years in prison. Count 2, felony of the second degree, felonious assault, 8 years in prison. Count 3, felony of the second degree, 6 years in prison. Count 5, abuse of a corpse, felony of the fifth degree, 9 months in prison. Counts 1, 2, and 3 to be served consecutive to each other and concurrent to the sentence imposed in count 5 for a total sentence of 25 years. The sentence is to be served concurrent to the sentence previously imposed in 625-508 for a total sentence of 25 years. Your sentence is as follows. Count 1, involuntary manslaughter, 11 years in prison. Count 2, felony of the second degree, felonious assault, 8 years in prison. Count 3, felony of the second degree, 8 years in prison. Count 5, abuse of a corpse, 1 year in prison, all counts to be served consecutive to each other with credit for any time served. That's a total sentence of 28 years. That's the maximum sentence available.
Y'all, I don't know how many children cases I can continue to do. Me being a mom of 3 breaks my heart to think that things like this could happen to your own kids and stuff, and it's very sad. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional. This case got to me. I just want to say that if y'all have any other people, mysterious or unsolved cases, just let me know. You can email me or you can send me a message through Instagram and give me some ideas of who I should cover next, who y'all want to hear about, want to know more about. Hold your kids and your family very close to you. They're so very, very important. I love y'all very much. I am blessed that y'all are here and supporting the channel. Until next time. Hi everybody, it's Lady Curious, aka Curious Raven. This is my second channel that I have moved all of my true crime, mysterious, conspiracy theories. I do want to get into those. Please like and subscribe or head on over to my second channel and subscribe. This might be the last of my true crime on my regular channel. This will be posted on both channels. I am still sick. I am still coughing a whole bunch. My voice is a little weak right now, and it sounds stuffy and not normal. But today we are going to go into the murder of Helmut Quell. I think that's how you say his last name. It might be Fell. He is German. They called him Peter. So I'm going to call him Peter the whole time. He died December 13th. He was a master chef, born in Hamburg, Germany. He moved to Eustis, Florida in 1980. He was a Lutheran. His survivors was a son and 2 daughters, and they both lived in Richmond, Virginia. He also had a sister, and his father and stepmother lived in Germany. I don't really have a whole bunch of background story about him. This story is a little different because as a correctional officer, at the very end I will get to the killer that I used to have to talk to every day that murdered this poor man. He was only 53 years old when he was murdered, and he was living the American dream. The first murderer was named Guy Gamble, and the second murderer was named Michael Love. Now, they lived in Florida in kind of like this townhouse, but it was like 3 or 4 apartments into one house. So each level was a different apartment. And Peter was Michael and Guy's landlord. So they rented from him. It took a while for them to realize that this was premeditated murder. There isn't really any type of reason why they killed him. What is put in the computer at the correctional facility is that it's because they didn't want to pay their rent, or they didn't have the money to pay it and they're behind or something. And they decided to murder him over it. And that just blows my mind. They were jealous of Peter. Peter just got a brand new car. Gamble and Love were looking at it like, ooh, look, he's got money. We're going to rob him. We're going to not pay our rent. We're going to cash his checks, and we're going to steal his car. So let's go and murder him. I mean, that's dumb. Like, you're going to get fucking caught. I'm going to read exactly what happened from the court documents. And this wasn't just some tiny little case, like in just a regular state. They were charged with capital murder. Alright, let's get to it. I'm sorry I don't know a lot of information. I tried my best to try to find out who Peter was, and there just was not a lot of information. I even got on Ancestry and tried to find him in there so I can kind of paint a better picture of who this man was. And the only thing I could find was that obituary. And it did, shine some light on who he was. This man also really loved to build things, woodworking, and it was kind of like a garage, but he turned it into a workshop in the back of the property. And this is where it all went down. Now, in the sentencing, the judge, Singletary, had determined that the murder was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner without any pretense of moral or legal justification. In the support of this finding, the court stated, now this is kind of like the story, what happened, all of the details, and I'm not going to omit anything. So, okay, the defendant is Guy Gamble. He got the most of it because Michael Love actually not testified, but he kind of turned in Guy Gamble and said he did more of the killing than he did. So he got a lesser charge. He, sung like a canary and told them everything they wanted to know about the murder and why and everything that they did and what happened. And so it's kind of like whoever sings or talks first, they get the better deal. So Michael Love actually was not tried, okay? He just went ahead and took a life sentence. And let me read that to you. Okay. Of considerable importance in the instant case is the desperate treatment between appellant and Michael Love. The appellant is Guy Gamble. After appellant's penalty phase, the state struck a bargain with Michael Love, whereby they agreed no to seek the death penalty in return for Love's guilty pleas. Currently, under normal circumstances, an accused is entitled to present evidence that a co-defendant received a sentence less than death. Because this deal was not struck at the time of the appellant's penalty phase, appellant was denied this right. So, given the evidence in the record, sub-justice concerning Michael Love's degree of participation, it is certainly possible, if not probable, that appellant's journey, if they had known Love did not receive the death penalty, would had recommended life. The jury that was on the trial for Guy Gamble, if they knew what Michael Love was involved in the murder was, he only got a life sentence. They're saying that maybe the jury would have gave Guy Gamble life sentences instead of the death penalty. And Guy Gamble, later on, like way later on, he actually tried to appeal this. And they said, no, you're still going to die for murdering this man. Okay, so let me get to what happened. It was in 1991 that this happened. So it's an older case. It was on December 10th, 1991, the day of the murder. Now, let me read this to you. Okay. The victim was the defendant's landlord. The defendant knew that the victim liked woodworking and was often found in his converted garage, practicing his hobby. The converted garage was located behind the main house, which contained 3 apartments occupied by the victim, the defendant, and another individual not a party to this prosecution. The victim was known to keep rent money in his apartment. Now, remember, the victim is Peter, the landlord, and had an almost new automobile. Approximately 6 days before the murder, the defendant told his girlfriend that he planned to take out the victim and take his car. The defendant's statement, taken after the murder and introduced at trial by the state, indicated that the defendant only intended to rob the victim and render him unconscious. However, the evidence contradicts the defendant's statement. On the day before the murder, December 9th, 1991, the defendant prepared for a quick departure and told his girlfriend to get rid of personal belongings that they did not need. So this means, like, he told his girlfriend, get rid of the stuff that we can't travel with, just the essentials, and get packed up and we need to go. On that same day, the defendant tore a window blind cord from a window in his apartment and practiced sneaking up behind his girlfriend and choking her. Like practicing, like acting like she was going to be the landlord and he was going to come up behind her and choke her with the cord. She was seated and pretended to be writing a receipt like the landlord would do. That evening, the defendant continued to play cat's cradle with the window cord. On December 10th, 1991, the day of the murder, the defendant and his co-defendant, Michael Love, picked up their paychecks at Winn-Dixie and returned to the defendant's apartment. The victim was woodworking in his converted garage behind the apartments. The defendant retrieved the window cord and went to the garage with his accomplice. They entered on the pretense that they wished to pay their rent and wanted a receipt for payment. The victim left the garage, went to his apartment to get a receipt, and returned to the garage to fill it out. While the victim was getting the receipt from his apartment, the defendant located a claw hammer and positioned it for easy accessibility. When the victim returned, he turned towards his work table to make out the receipt. At that moment, the defendant struck the victim with the claw hammer. The bloodstain pattern expert testified that the victim was struck at least 3 times before he hit the floor. According to the defendant's statement given after the murder, the defendant was only person armed at that time, at or near the time of death. The defendant and his accomplice strangled the victim with the window cord. The assistant medical examination concluded that there were 8 blows to the victim's head with a blunt instrument consistent with a hammer. Any single blow was with such force that it could have been the fatal blow. The evidence is completely devoid of any moral or legal justification for murdering this innocent victim. This aggravating factor was proven beyond to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Dr. Janet Pello, a forensic pathologist, conducted an autopsy on the body of Helmut. She observed multiple lacerations on the right side of the neck, a thin abrasion or scratch running across the neck from behind the right ear, and a gaping wound about 1 centimeter deep into the tissue of Helmut's neck. There were a total of 9 wounds to the right side of Helmut's head. There was 1 large wound in the center, which went all the way through to Helmut's scalp. There were also skull fractures underneath the wound and brain tissue coming out of it. Helmut also had a small laceration in the area of his left eyebrow, which was consistent with having fallen onto the concrete. Dr. Pello's opinion was that since there was very little bleeding around the neck wound, that it must have been inflicted either near death or after death. The cause of death was blunt head injury due to multiple blows to the head with a neck injury as a contributing factor. Any one of the blows to the head could have resulted in the victim losing consciousness, at which point Helmut would have felt no pain. Any one of the wounds could have killed Helmut, and Dr. Pello testified that death probably occurred within minutes. Gamble told Love that there was no reason to choke Peter since he was already unconscious and urged him just to leave him. This is what happened after the murder. Love gave Gamble the hammer and rope and told him to dispose of them. Gamble wrapped the items up in a newspaper and left them on the floor of the garage. Love picked up another hammer and again hit Peter. To me, that's just overkill, and it's so freaking sad. Love then went through Peter's pockets, taking his wallet and his car keys. Love cursed as he looked in Peter's wallet and found no money. Gamble left the garage to return to his apartment, leaving Love to close up the garage. When Gamble returned to his apartment, he had blood on his hands and immediately went into the bathroom to wash them. As Gamble was finishing washing his hands, Love came into the apartment, and since he also had blood on his hands, he washed up in the kitchen. Gamble and Love packed the car and they left. As they drove away, Gamble started to look through Peter's wallet. Gamble found between $200 to $300 in cash and a blank check in the wallet. Gamble also found a bank statement in the glove box which revealed that Peter had over $10,000 in his bank account. And just remember, this is in 1991. That's a lot of money back then. When Gamble discovered the statement, he wanted to return to Peter's apartment and look for more valuables, but Love stated, "You never return to the scene of the crime." Because Gamble had a fake ID in the name of Carlos Spriggs, it was decided that they would forge the check and then cash it. They stopped at the Kentucky Fried Chicken to write out the check, after which Love drove to the Barnett Bank. Gamble went into the bank and was able to cash the check for $8,544. When Gamble returned to the car, he was quite excited and passed the money around for everyone to hold. Love then continued driving until they got to Gulfport, Mississippi, where they stopped and rented rooms at the Holiday Inn. Gamble gave each person $100 to go to Walmart to purchase clothing. They then stopped at a liquor store, bought some liquor, and returned to the hotel. Gamble and Love went to the lounge while the girls remained in the room. Gamble and Love went to purchase some crack cocaine, after which they returned to the hotel and all four individuals smoked it. Gamble decided that evening that he would leave the rest of the group and check out the bus schedules, but found he could not catch a bus until the next morning. The next morning, Gamble got up and told Stacy, his girlfriend, that he was going to buy some cigarettes. After nearly an hour and a half passed, Love, Yinger, and Ash realized that Gamble was not going to return. Although Gamble stated that he only took about $700 and left the rest of the money in a dresser drawer, the other individuals never found any money. Love, Yinger, and Ash took the clothes they had bought the previous evening back to Walmart and got a refund. The three of them then left Gulfport in Peter's car. Stacy Ash, Gamble's girlfriend, parted company with Love and Yinger at a truck stop. Before she left, Love told Ash that if she told the authorities, he would come back and find her, which Ash saw this as a threat. Ash was able to obtain a ride to her home in Indiana. On December 16th, 1991, Ash went to the police in Indiana and talked to them about the incident. She also gave the police Gamble's fake ID, which he had left in Mississippi. Yinger and Love continued driving to Six Falls, South Dakota. On the evening of December 12th, 1991, at approximately 11:30 p.m., Officer Jermone James of the Six Falls Police Department observed a vehicle traveling on the street with no headlights or taillights, so he stopped the vehicle. When Officer James noticed an odor of intoxicants on the driver, he placed the driver in his police vehicle and ran a warrants check. The driver identified himself as Michael Love. When the dispatcher was unable to confirm whether there were any warrants, Officer James gave Love a warning ticket for driving with no headlights or taillights, told Love to park the vehicle and to walk over to a nearby hotel where he could sleep off his drunk. When Officer James told Love he was giving him a break, Love assured him that he would not drive again. Officer James returned to the police station, and after approximately 20 to 30 minutes returned to check on the car, and again observed it traveling north without any headlights or taillights. Officer James again stopped the car, which was being driven by Love, and told Love he was issuing a citation to him for reckless driving. As Officer James waited for a warrants check, Love told him that there may be an outstanding warrant for burglary, but that he had actually straightened it out with the state attorney's office. The warrants check revealed an outstanding warrant, and Love was arrested. Later, the car, which was driven by Love, was determined to be stolen. Officer Harry Dormis of the Eustis Police Department received a teletype from the Six Falls Police Department at 3 a.m. on the morning of December 13th, 1991. Officer Dormis was instructed to go to Peter's house to meet with him concerning a vehicle registered to him which had been seized in Six Falls, South Dakota. Officer Dormis knocked on the door and got a response from Brian Mahoney, who lived in the downstairs apartment. Officer Dormis explained to Mahoney that he had needed to contact Peter. Mahoney showed him access to Peter's apartment through his apartment. Officer Dormis entered Peter's apartment and found everything to be in order, but that Peter was not there. Officer Dormis observed a note on the table to Peter from a Jackie Mayberry stating that she was concerned and that he should call her immediately. Officer Dormis then checked the back shed area but found that both doors were locked. He also checked the downstairs rear apartment, which appeared vacant. Officer Dormis took an address book from Peter's apartment and later contacted Peter's daughter to see if she knew where he was located. Later that morning, Officer Dormis returned to Peter's residence and again checked the shed area. When he looked in a window in the rear, Dormis observed 2 legs from the knees down. Dormis then used a crowbar to break the hasp on the door and went inside, where he discovered the body of Peter. Now, that's what happened. That's how they found him. I've already read what Now, this is a woman, Sandra Thompson, a maid at the Holiday Inn in Gulfport, Mississippi, testified December 11th she was cleaning the rooms and found 2 bags of clothing, which apparently the occupants had left, and she dated the bags and turned them over to housekeeping, where they would be kept for 90 days in the event that someone requested their return. After Officer Luann O'Bannon of the Hairston County Sheriff's Department in Mississippi, she requested from the Eustis Police Department, went to the Holiday Inn in Gulfport and received 2 bags of clothing from the manager. After photographing the clothing, Officer O'Bannon shipped them to Eustis. When the clothes were received by the Eustis Police Department, Detective Hubbard forwarded them to the FDLE lab in Orlando for testing. Detective David Hubbard of the Eustis Police Department obtained blood samples from both Gamble and Love and sent them to the lab for DNA analyses. He also obtained handwriting samples from both Gamble and Love, which he sent to the crime lab along with the check written on Peter's account for the $8,544. When the canceled check was examined, it was determined that the face details of the check had been written by Love. The signature of Peter was simulated. The analysis was unable to determine who wrote the Carla Spriggs endorsement on the back of the check, since the handwriting was different from the known samples of Love and Gamble and Peter. Maybe one of the girlfriends. I don't know. Nancy Rothman, a forensic serologist with the FDLE, testified that she examined tissue from Peter and did a DNA profile on it. She then examined numerous items which had been sent to her, including clothing, and determined that the blood stains that she was able to type matched the blood profile of Peter. Additionally, the latent print examiner testified that he found 3 latent prints on the canceled check, which matched Love's fingerprints. Now, inmate Love, I could not really find a lot of background story on him, like how his childhood was and, you know, stuff like that. But they do talk about inmate Guy Gamble's background, and I'm going to go ahead and read it, okay? It says, Gamble's parents separated when he was 1.5 years old. While he was growing up, Gamble bounced around from place to place and never had a stable home. Gamble's mother was very strict with him and would punish him by spanking him and hitting him in the head. Gamble's father suffered from drug and alcohol addiction, which often prevented him from exercising visitation with Gamble. His father was not involved in Gamble's school activities. Once, when Gamble was approximately 6 years of age and during a company picnic, his half-brother saw him lying under a beer truck, catching beer that was dripping out. Even at that early age, Gamble was drunk and everyone was laughing at him. Gamble started drinking and abusing alcohol and drugs at approximately 13 years of age. Gamble's mother used marijuana extensively and also had it in the house. Gamble used to steal her marijuana and diet pills. After Gamble turned 18, Gamble's mother smoked marijuana with him. As he was growing up, Gamble never felt like he was wanted. Gamble and Lucinda Smithers were together for 3 years, during which they had a baby together. During this time, Smithers knew Gamble was using alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, and crack cocaine. Smithers is certain, however, that Gamble loves his daughter. While Gamble was incarcerated for the instant offense, Virginia Chappell, a nurse at the Lake County Jail, was summoned to his cell. Chappell entered, Gamble sitting on a table with his knees pulled up and head between his knees. He was crying and his body was shaking uncontrollably. Gamble indicated to Chappell that he was contemplating suicide. He expressed feelings of self-destruction and also told Chappell that he heard voices, including that of the victim, who was telling Gamble that he would have to pay for what he did. Since Gamble was already on medication, Chappell contacted the psychiatrist and got approval to increase the dosage. Dr. Lowell Cunningham testified that he saw Gamble while he was in Lake County Jail and observed significant depressive symptoms. Dr. Cunningham prescribed antidepressants for Gamble in an attempt to elevate his mood and to assist him in sleeping. Dr. Cunningham felt that Gamble was suffering from clinical depression and also prescribed a tranquilizer for him. Dr. Cunningham felt that Gamble was exhibiting psychoaffect disorder, which prevented him from thinking clearly. While Gamble was growing up, there were 2 instances when he was sexually abused by male babysitters. Because of his father's drug problem, Gamble never really had a strong father figure in his life. When his mother remarried, Gamble resented his stepfather, and eventually the problems between the two caused Gamble to move out. Now, Gamble was really young when this happened. I think he was 21 and inmate Love was 22. I know that. So when they murdered Peter, they were that young, y'all. Like, they were just destined to be pieces of crap, I guess. Okay, so now that's mainly like the whole gist of what happened in 1991, where this man got murdered by these 2 crappy people. Now, inmate Love was charged and had life in prison, and then inmate Gamble was given the death sentencing. He is not dead. The last time he tried to do a petition for habeas corpus appeal of the U.S. Court of Appeals on 80305, and that was denied in 53106. And then he also filed a petition with the U.S. Supreme Court on 82606, and that's still pending, but he is sitting on death row. Now, inmate Love passed away 2018. He had stomach cancer. Karma's a bitch, but he was in his 60s when he passed away. Now, inmate Love, unfortunately, I had to watch over, and he was an inmate that was in my camp, and every morning I said hello to him. And I want to tell y'all something. Monsters do not present themselves as monsters. He was always very respectful and very nice. So I don't know if prison changed his tune, but he's still a murderer. Guy Gamble, I have never met him. He's somewhere up north, in Florida, with the feds. Inmate Love really loved to clean. His room was always bleached and cleaned, and that was something that he loved to do. He never gave me any problems. He was what they would call a outstanding inmate, I guess, if you would want to say. He talked about the weather, talked about what was going on in the prison, and when I found out what he did, it disgusted me. Yes, it's hard. It's hard not to look up the inmates to see what they did, because we're told to not have any bias opinions about what they did. Treat all of them like they're murderers and do your job. Make sure they don't escape. Also, inmate Love told me that the reason why they did that to his landlord was because he said the truth was the landlord raped Guy Gamble's girlfriend, and they were getting him back. I looked at him and said, no, that's bullcrap, you're lying. He said, no, that's the real reason. And he's a murderer, so he's a liar. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't believe him. I just thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share that. I don't think that Peter would do that. He seemed like an honorable man. Inmate Love had started getting sick, and I noticed, because he wasn't getting up to clean as much. He was always laying down, and we'd always have to get on to him about getting up for counts so we can count his body, that he was there in prison still, and verify it's him. And then he would tell me, officer, I had imaging done, and he had stomach tumors in his stomach, but it was so bad that there was no going back. They couldn't do nothing about it, so he just had to die very slowly. But to be honest, it's called karma. He took a life and God took his life, and that's how I feel about it. That's my opinion. I'm not really sure about how I feel about the death penalty, because I'd rather people rot in prison and not have the same freedoms as they do when they're free. And if they do the death penalty, I wish they would do like the older style. Like, I feel like they should get killed how the victim was killed, how they killed their victim. They should get the exact same thing done to them, to feel exactly what that victim went through. I really hope y'all have a very good day. And please go over to my other channel, Curious Raven. I do a lot of paranormal stories and true Reddit encounters like Let's Not Meet and things like that. And go subscribe over there as well. If you have any stories that you would like me to tell, any suggestions of like any murders or weird disappearances, or even any paranormal stories or true weird encounters that you want me to maybe read on my channel, please, you can contact me on Instagram. That goes directly to my phone, so that's like the top way to contact me. Also, you can go to curiousraven87@gmail.com, and you can write me there. And that goes directly to my phone as well, and I check that every day. So, and if you just want to say hello or what's up, hey, I love to talk to y'all. So, also, you can leave a comment down below. So, I love y'all. I'm sorry that my voice sounds so horrible. I feel like, I'm getting over COVID. That's what I had. My smell has came back, and so has my taste, so I'm so happy about that. But also, please do not write anything mean about any of the people that were in this case, especially Peter. My heart goes out to his family that they lost him, especially his daughters, his son, and just survivors. You never know. They might be listening to this, and they might read the comments of this. So please be nice and sweet. And if you're not, I'm just going to delete your comment. So, alright, y'all. Love y'all so much. I'll see you on the next one. Hi everybody, it's Curious Raven with another true crime. Like I said, this is another correctional officer murder that has happened in the state of Florida. This one bothers me so much just because what this criminal monster did to her. I want to go ahead and let you know about who she was. Her name was Donna Fitzgerald. She was born October 3rd, 1957, in Parsons, West Virginia. She graduated from Kingwood High School in New Hampshire in 1975, where she was crowned Homecoming Carnival Queen. She graduated with honors. She then moved to Springfield, Massachusetts, and attended Springfield Technical Community College, graduating with honors with a degree in teaching. She then also graduated from Westfield State College in Westfield, Massachusetts, with a degree in criminal justice. She moved to Daytona Beach in 1985, where she made her home. Donna was currently employed for 13 years as a correctional officer at the Tomoka Correctional Institution. She also worked part-time for special events for the Daytona Beach International Speedway during race week and bike week. Donna was preceded in death by her father, her mother, one brother, and one sister. She also left her grandmother as well. The most important one that she left was her 20-year-old son named Kyle. Donna had a great passion for life. She loved the beach. Her greatest treasures were her son and her friends and her family. She had great compassion for others and loved to help people as she had a heart of gold. Her beautiful smile and infectious laughter will be greatly missed by her friends and family. Friends are the sunshine of life. Now, what I just said actually came from her obituary. When myself got into the department, I heard of this incident. It's like they try to warn you about, hey, this has happened in the past, don't let it happen to you. So like I said, Correctional Officer Donna Fitzgerald was a 50-year-old single mother of a 20-year-old son named Kyle. She had been working for the Florida Department of Corrections for 13 years at Tomoka Correctional Institute in Daytona Beach, Florida. I want to advise you, this story will have some gruesome and sad parts. This happened on August 24th, 2008, during the evening hours. Officer Fitzgerald had decided to pick up extra overtime at work. She was tasked to supervise 13 inmates that included 5 of them rapists, 7 killers, and the last a robber. They were working in the Pride building on Institute grounds. Pride stands for Prison Rehabilitative Industries and Diversified Enterprises Incorporation, where the inmates were refurbishing vehicles. Now, this also included inmate Hall, that will be charged later on in this story. He was a welder working on vehicles. The way they found out something was wrong is when Sergeant Webster was working at Tomoka CI Control Room Supervisor, where she was responsible for getting a count from all the areas as to the number of inmates in each area to make sure no one was missing. When Webster had not heard from Fitzgerald, who was working in the Pride building that night, Webster radioed Officer Weber, who went to the Pride facility with Sergeant McNeil to search for Officer Fitzgerald. Webster saw inmate Hall, run through an open door on the other end of the Pride buildings, and Weber and McNeil pursued Hall. Weber called up to Hall, who repeatedly said, "I freaked out, I snapped, I killed her." Hall responded to Weber's commands and placed his hands on the wall and was handcuffed. Weber took possession of the Pride keys that Hall had in his hands, the ones that he stole from Officer Fitzgerald. Officer Birch shouted from inside the building, "Officer down!" and Hall remained outside with the other officers, while Captain Wiggins and Officers Weber and McNeil entered the building and located Fitzgerald's body. Fitzgerald's body was found laying face down on top of a cart in the paint room. The upper part of her body was wrapped in a gray wool blanket, and the bottom half of her body rested over the back of the cart, with her pants and underwear pulled down to her knees. Inside a bucket of water that was on the floor next to Fitzgerald's legs was inmate Hall's bloody t-shirt. Hall was escorted to the medical facility of the prison by officers Dickerson and Schweit. Several officers took turns watching inmate Hall while he sat in the medical building. Hall was later escorted to the conference room to talk with investigators from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and then to a cell. He gave 3 statements to FDLE agents throughout the night regarding the events of the murder. Daniel Radcliffe, a crime scene investigator for FDLE, testified that he found 2 packets of pills in a file cabinet in the paint room of Pride where the body was discovered. The pill packets had an inmate's name on them, Franklin Prince, and were labeled ibuprofen 800 milligrams and a generic Tregatol 200 milligrams and anti-seizure medication. Hall's white t-shirt was found in the bucket of water with other shirts in the paint room, and inmate Hall's pants were found in a pile of clothes also in the paint room. Months later, inmate Hall's blue prison shirt was found lodged on top of a paint booth. Granules of Speedy Dry and oil absorbent material were found on the ground in the front of the welding shed and in a coffee can next to the shed. The granules tested positive for blood, and DNA tested confirmed that it was Fitzgerald's. A broom found nearby had Fitzgerald's blood on the broom head. Blood was found on the walls of the welding shed. Also found in the welding shed was a cap, which had Fitzgerald's blood on it as well. Inmate Hall's clothes, including his underwear, tested positive for Fitzgerald's blood. A sexual assault analysis was performed on Fitzgerald's body. A crime lab analyst with the FDLE testified that there was no evidence of semen on the body. Wiggins testified that he was a commander of the Tomoka CI Rapid Response Team and as part of his job would search prisons for weapons. Wiggins testified that shanks made in the Pride facility differed from the usual ones made by inmates and that they had a machine edged made by a grinder. Wiggins testified that the shank recovered from the wall of the paint room, which appeared to be the murder weapon, had a meticulously sharpened point, like those made from a tool grinder in the Pride facility. The state played the 3 confessions Hall made on the night of the murder. In the first statement given to FDLE agents and Tomoka CI personnel, Hall admitted to killing Fitzgerald and stated that he had taken 4 pills that Frank Prince, another inmate working in Pride, had given to him. Later that day, when his shift ended, Hall went looking for more pills, but was unable to find any and became angry. Officer Fitzgerald came in and laughed and called Hall by his nickname. "Possum, come on, get out of there." Hall told her to get out. Fitzgerald grabbed Hall's arm, and that's when he freaked out and began to stab her with a sharp piece of metal that he found on the floor of the room. Hall then took off his bloody shirt, put it in a bucket of water, and put on one of Prince's shirts. He picked up the Pride keys and continued to look for pills. Hall stated that he did not remember pulling Fitzgerald's pants down. Hall said that he did not want to have sex with Fitzgerald. Hall repeatedly stated that he just wanted to get high. The second statement, given around 1:30 a.m., was taken by Agent Miller of the FDLE upon Hall's request in the cell in which Hall had been placed in. During this interview, Hall admitted that he killed Fitzgerald somewhere other than the room where she was found. Fitzgerald found Hall searching for pills in the office. He ran out past her. She chased him to the welding shed, and he stabbed her there. Hall carried her to the office and placed her on the cart. Hall said he threw some dirt on the blood outside, near the welding shed. Hall told Miller that he had hid the knife in a cinder block wall near the welding shed. Hall also told Miller he did not think he was going to make it tomorrow. Miller told Hall that he would transport him to the branch jail in a little while. The third statement was given around 3:30 a.m. that same night and was made only to the FDLE agents. In the third statement, Hall agreed that in his first statement he said he killed Fitzgerald inside the Pride building. But in his second statement he admitted to killing her in the welding area outside the Pride building. Hall admitted that he stayed behind in the Pride building to look for some drugs. While looking for drugs, Hall found the shank by the sink in Prince's office and took it with him. When he realized Fitzgerald was looking for him, Hall hid inside the welding shed. Fitzgerald opened the shed door and came in and tried to grab him. He tried to run past her, but she would not let go, so he stabbed her. He did not recall how many times he stabbed her, but said he stabbed her enough times just to get by. Fitzgerald fell to the ground inside the shed. He did not know whether or not she was alive. He hid the shank in the wall and spread some Speedy Dry on the ground in the welding area to soak up the blood. He wrapped her up in a towel and blankets and carried her back to the paint room office. Hall placed her on the cart. He then continued to look for pills, but was not able to find any. Hall went back to the room where Fitzgerald was and pulled down her pants. He did not sexually assault her. Hall said he put his shirt in a bucket of water, put on Prince's shirt, but kept on his own pants. Correction officers entered the Pride facility, and he attempted to run from them. Now, they did bring doctors in. Dr. Bullock, the Volusia County Associate Medical Examiner, testified that the injuries Fitzgerald sustained based on her autopsy results. He said that Fitzgerald's body bore evidence of blunt force injuries, mostly on her face, consistent with those caused by punches from a hand. Fitzgerald's hands and arms had sustained defensive wounds caused by a sharp instrument, consistent with a knife. 15 additional stab wounds were inflicted upon Fitzgerald, including on her stomach, back, and chest. Dr. Bullock also testified that a gold chain necklace on Fitzgerald's body had been pulled tightly around her mouth and neck from behind in a manner so as to exert sufficient force to leave a post-mortem mark consistent with strangling mark. Now, October 23rd, 2009, this asshole that hurt this woman that was just trying to do her damn job was convicted for first-degree murder. The state offered evidence that Hall was serving 2 consecutive life sentences when he murdered Fitzgerald, so he was a lifer. The state also offered evidence that Hall had committed prior violent felonies, introducing testimony from 2 women who Hall had raped. This right here is some background stated by Hall's father. Hall was a good son and got along well with his 2 younger brothers. He also testified that Hall had been raped in jail at age 19, when his girlfriend's mother's boyfriend arranged to have him put in jail after a dispute. After his release, Hall became afraid and mostly stayed home, and he eventually started living in a shelter in the woods. His father had not seen his son since 1995. Hall's mother, Betty Hall, also testified regarding her son's love for sports growing up. Dr. Hines, a dentist, testified through the telephone that he and Hall had played sports together in high school, and that Hall was an excellent athlete. Bruce Hall, the former plant manager for Pride, testified that Hall started at Pride as an apprentice welder and eventually worked his way up to lead welder. Now, that's when he was in prison. Rodney Callahan, an inmate who used to work with Hall, described him as a very good worker and responsible. The defense tried to come forward and say maybe his behavior was due to the pills he took. But Dr. Daniel Buffington, a pharmacologist, testified for the defense that among other possible side effects, both ibuprofen and Tegretol have the capacity to alter someone's behavior. The state called Dr. Wade Myers on rebuttal, who testified that most people who take an overdose of ibuprofen do not have any side effect, and the remaining people complain of nausea, and Tegretol has an anti-aggression component to it. His opinion, it would be very unlikely to cause aggression. He actually said you're going to get the opposite effect. The defense also tried to say he was emotionally damaged, and in support of the defense's contention that Hall should receive the emotionally and mentally disturbed statutory mitigator, Dr. Kropp testified for the defense that Hall had a cognitive disorder, not otherwise specified, coercive paraphilia disorder, multiple sexual offender, and an alcohol substance abuse disorder. Kropp testified that Hall had a serious emotional disorder at the time of the offense, and that Hall's ingestion Tegretol could bring out his underlying psychological traits. Well, then here comes the state. They offered a rebuttal, and it was from Dr. Rebsame, a forensic psychologist and professor of psychology, and Dr. Dan Ziegler, a board-certified forensic psychiatrist. Rebsame testified that the results of the test administered to Hall by Kropp were questionable because Kropp failed to test for malingering. Dan Ziegler testified that he administered 2 tests to determine whether Hall was mentally ill or was malingering. A score of more than 14 is highly correlated with malingering, and Hall's score was 29. Dan Ziegler arrived at the opinion that Hall has a history of substance abuse, adult antisocial behavior, history of sexually related charges, possibly a psychosexual disorder, a pseudo seizure disorder by history. Sorry, I do not know how to say that word. Now, right now I'm actually just reading the deposition of the whole murder, what happened in the trial. It gives really, public good information, sums it all up. This was horrible, what this man did to her. I'm telling you, drug addiction is real, and it'll make you do some crazy stuff, but not to take someone's life. That is unacceptable. I'm going to continue reading the deposition. Dan Ziegler strongly disagreed with any attempt by Buffington to diagnose a psychological condition and disagreed with Buffington's opinion that Tegretol could unmask an underlying psychological illness. The trial court found that Hall did not establish the existence of mental or emotional disturbance as a statutory mitigating circumstance and gave it no weight. In the trial court sentencing order, the court found 5 aggravators. 1, he had previous conviction of a felony and under sentence of imprisonment had a really great weight. This means you're already in prison. And if you actually break a law in prison, it actually has outside charges. And you can actually get extra time, like murdering Officer Fitzgerald. He actually gets sentenced to death because he was already had 2 life sentences. And these lifers that do have a life sentence, you have to be careful when you're an officer because they have nothing to lose. If they want to kill you or hurt you or really mess with you as an officer, they can. And not even care, because why? Why care? He's just going to just stay in prison for the rest of his life. Kind of glad that they gave him the death sentence, because that was the next step. My opinion on the death sentence is that they should bring back all the old types of sentencing, like hanging and firing squad and guillotine. I don't feel that the inmate laying on the bed and just having a thing injected into a IV that does not hurt him at all, and then he just go to sleep and never wakes up. I don't feel like that's enough in some. I want them to stay in prison and rot. And I'm telling you, prison, especially in Florida, if you are a typical regular inmate and you go by the rules and you don't get in trouble and you try to help out and you try to make the most of your prison sentence, of your time that you're there, it's so easy. I mean, yeah, it sucks. You have people that tell you what to do, when to do it, where to do it, how to do it. But that's the point. That is your punishment of whatever you did. But y'all, they still have hot showers and not bad food, because I have eaten the inmate food at the prison. They get just, if they're not working, I mean, yes, some of them do go into shifts and they work, but it's not all day. They just come in, relax, lay around, read, watch TV, play card games, listen to music, go to rec when they call rec, and they get canteen where they can get all their little goodies and snacks and sodas, and it's crazy. They get clean clothes. I will say one thing is that it does get kind of hot in the dorms but they have fans. Big, gigantic fans in the dorms. So it's not like they're going to pass out, you know? They get cold water, hot water for soups and all that kind of stuff. They get to go to church, because they have church every night. When they go eat, they eat in the chow hall. They get medical. They have a dentist. They have a doctor, nurses. Anything happens that's, out of the capacity of what medical can do, they get called out to the hospital. But I'm telling y'all, prison is like camp, and they also have they get to see their families on the weekends. They get to talk to them through a kind of like a video visitation, if they decide to do that. They have tablets. They can watch movies if they wanted to and listen to music. And yeah, they have to pay their own money to get that kind of luxury in a prison. I mean, you're in prison. You're supposed to be suffering for the things that you did. But to me, these guys they're not. I'm sorry. I went off on a rant, and let me get back to it. Number 2, previously convicted of another capital felony or felony involving the use of threat of violence to a person. That had great weight. Number 3, committed to disrupt, hinder the lawful exercise of any government function or the enforcement of laws. That has a great weight. Number 4, especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel. Very great weight. Number 5, cold, calculated, and premeditated. Very great weight. 6, the victim of the capital felony was a law enforcement officer engaged in the performance of his or her official duties. No weight. Merged with aggravator number 3 as listed above. In mitigation, the sentencing court found no statutory mitigators and 8 non-statutory mitigating circumstances. 1, Hall was a good son and brother. Some weight. 2, Hall's family loves him. Little weight. 3, Hall was a good athlete who won awards and medals. Little weight. Hall was a victim of sexual abuse. Some weight. Number 5, Hall was productively employed while in prison. Some weight. Hall cooperated with law enforcement. Some weight. Hall showed little remorse. Little weight. 8, Hall displayed appropriate courtroom behavior. Little weight. The trial court concluded that the aggravating circumstances far outweighed the mitigation and gave great weight to the jury's unanimous recommendation of death. Thus, the trial court imposed a sentence of death. Now, this is things that the defense, started going, oh no, we lost. And they're like pulling stuff out their butt trying to, this is why. Let me read them. Juror challenge. Hall first asserts that trial counsel was ineffective for using a peremptory strike on prospective juror Rapone instead of striking her for cause, and that this peremptory strike should have been used to challenge prospective jury Roddy instead. Hall argues that Roddy was biased because he supervised a full-time Tomoka CI corrections officer at his work, and he had discussed Hall's case with this officer. We disagree. Confirmation of her ability to follow the law and counsel's belief that she would be a good guilt-phase juror, counsel's decisions not to challenge the juror was reasonable and a matter of trial strategy. Furthermore, we hold that Hall has failed to show deficient performance for this claim. Alright, the next claim is a prejudice claim. Okay, let's get into it. Furthermore, Hall has not established prejudice. He has failed to show that the juror in question was actually biased. Competent, substantial evidence supports the post-conviction court's determination that juror Ruddy's work relationship with a TCI officer did not establish actual bias. Therefore, we conclude that Hall has failed to establish juror Roddy's actual bias, and the result of Hall's case thus would have remained the same. Therefore, we concluded that his claim fails. Yeah, the third thing that he is trying to argue about. Ineffectiveness of the guilt phase. Hall next argues that his trial counsel was ineffectively at the guilt phase for failing to adequately investigate, develop a defense, and challenge the state's case. We disagree. Primarily, Hall has failed to establish prejudice. Competent, substantial evidence supports the post-conviction court's finding that trial counsel were not ineffective at the guilt phase. Notably, for all of the subclaims addressed below, none of the alleged deficiencies would have rebutted Hall's own confession that he hid from C.O. Fitzgerald in the welding shed with a shank after she confronted him in Prince's office while he was looking for pills. The confession establishes the premeditation in the state's case, and none of the alleged deficiencies would have rebutted this evidence. Therefore, we conclude that Hall has failed to establish prejudice with regard to this claim. This is starting to get too much. I'm going to go ahead. That Mr. Hall did his job normal that day. There was nothing unusual about him. He wasn't acting weird, nothing out of the ordinary. So we were also reluctant to call witnesses who might have testified because we had the defense of the pills that Mr. Hall was testifying or was acting normally, that he was acting like he did every day and he wasn't acting unusual. We find that competent, substantial evidence supports the post-conviction court's finding, and they made a strategic decision not to present evidence of the alleged stressful work conditions at Pride in light of the lack of corroborating evidence from coworkers. Had they chosen to present this evidence, the state almost certainly would have rebutted the evidence by bringing to light the fact that all the inmates at Pride may have experienced stress, yet none of them murdered C.O. Fitzgerald. Furthermore, evidence about stressful work conditions would likely have also led to rebuttal testimony about Hall seemingly normal behavior on the days leading up to the murder, and on the day of the murder, which would directly contradict the defense's theory that Hall was high on pills that caused him to freak out. Therefore, we find the subclaim failed. Now, Pride is like a third entity. It's like the state, and then they subcontract, another company to have inmates as labor, practically. I mean, So this one is Pride Overtime Closing Procedures. So Hall is going to argue something about this. Hall next argues that trial counsel were deficient for failing to present evidence of Pride's closing procedures for the overtime shift and officers' use of chemical agents and body alarms when supervising the Pride facility as a way to rebut the state's contention that he was lying and wait for C.O. Fitzgerald and place fault on the victim for the murder. We find that Hall has failed to establish deficiency under this subclaim. First off, I'm going to tell you, he ambushed her. It was premeditated because he waited on her with a shank. He was so fiending for some type of drug that he wanted her to get out of the way. Because after he killed her, he kept on looking for more pills. Makes me so upset, trying to blame the officer. Oh well, she had chemical agents that she could have sprayed me with. She did have a body alarm. No, dude, you came around a corner and ambushed her. She did not expect that was going to happen. I am pretty sure, it was late. It was, 7:30 when they found her body? So she was trying to do it on her own. I mean, I have been on a rec field with 1,200 inmates. I have been in a dorm with 170 inmates by myself. I have been in chapel with over 200 inmates by myself. They don't mean to do it on purpose, but that's the point about being a correctional officer. It's dangerous. And we sacrifice our lives to try to keep these people in line and where they don't rebuttal and try to escape the prison to go hurt people. It's normal. I mean, I've taken a crew of 20 inmates to go paint. It was during the day, but it's part of the job. We do dangerous things. And it's not this woman's fault. She was just trying to do her job like she was supposed to. I will say that it sucks because people do get complacent and they work with certain inmates every day, or you get kind of comfortable because the inmate, you have to talk to them every day and they manipulate. They fake who they are. And I always tell new officers that you can't trust like that. Don't fall into that, because you could be working with an inmate for 7 years on the same work crew, and then bam, he might stab you in the neck one day, just out of nowhere. And you got comfortable because you've been around this inmate for 7 years and, complacency. That's what they call it. Not saying that she was. I just feel so bad for the family that lost their loved one from a sicko doing this to her. How she was found broke my heart. Then he tried to claim that there was unsupervised access to sheet metal and grinders. No, you are supervised. There's an officer there. She was outside, shutting down everything. And then you just didn't respond. So she went back in to see where you were. And she found you in the office trying to get some pills. You ran, she followed you. You intentionally picked up a piece of metal and hid it. It is not the fault of Pride or the officer. So, they said, nay. Then also Hall tried to do a subclaim that, oh, well, it's the officer's fault. Y'all didn't do a toxicology screen on me to corroborate Hall's statement that he was under the influence of Tegretol pills at the time of the murder. They've already established that them pills don't do nothing to you. Y'all, this man tried every single, listen to this, inconsistencies in Hall's confessions. Hall next alleges that trial counsel were deficient both at the suppression hearing and the guilt phase of trial for failing to present testimony and medical evidence of Hall's injuries to explain the inconsistencies in Hall's confessions. We hold we hold that Hall has failed to establish this subclaim. Really? They are grasping for straws. Literally saying, oh, well, mistrial. Or, oh, well, this is an issue because y'all didn't go through my stories that I told you 3 times that night. Wow, Hall. Really? Now you're trying to blame yourself? Everything. Suppression of hearing, no. Hall did get an injury, a black eye, in confrontation with Miss Fitzgerald during the incident where she was killed. Okay, he had on his back, he was bruised and scratched. Well, I wonder why the woman was trying to fight for her damn life. He's trying every freaking little thing to blame the officers, to blame the prison, to blame Pride. Dude, you murdered someone. Like, in cold blood. You're not getting out of this one. I mean, it's like case closed. Hall's next claim contends that trial counsel was ineffective for failing to object to CO Evans' trial testimony concerning the procedures that he followed when closing down the Pride overtime shift because he was not listed on the state's witness list and only testified about the procedures that he personally followed in closing down Pride, rather than those that CO Fitzgerald and all supervising Pride officers followed. We disagree. Frederick Evans, who testified at trial for the state, worked the overtime shift at Pride around the time of the murder. CO Evans testified as to the procedures he followed when closing down the Pride overtime shift, which included locking up all tools and offices before closing and searching all inmates before dismissing them. Evans testified that he noticed that Hall had developed a habit of being the last inmate to leave Pride, but he would have never allowed an inmate to stay behind after the supervising officer left. Evans also testified that Hall usually worked alongside another welder. When Hall was late coming to check out, the other welder he worked with was, on occasion, also one of the last inmates to check out of Pride. That's kind of weird. Like they're trying to hide something or do something to hide stuff before they walk out when the CO's not looking. Oh, Hall admitted that he had considered raping Fitzgerald after he had killed her. He's a monster. So I'm just going to wrap this up. I want to read the last of this to y'all. Then I will let you know my little opinion. Also, in 2010, Fitzgerald's family sued for wrongful death suit for her murder. It was said that the compound was not taking regular security checks with Officer Fitzgerald while she was alone at night in the Pride building with that dangerous criminal. But I couldn't find anything, if they won or if they didn't. I looked. It was very hard to find information about this. I only found that they did file one. You know, when there are officers out in the field that they're not like on the main compound, you're supposed to do security checks. I've done them. Work crews that are out, they call in and they let me know, okay, I'm safe, like every hour. And I write it down. And then if for some reason I feel like one hasn't called, like over an hour, I will call them to make sure they're okay. Sometimes, you know, they just get busy with the working and everything and they're a little late calling in. So the sergeant of the control room, she did correctly. She called to see if she was okay and she didn't answer. And then they went to go look for her. In 2017, 6 years ago on June 25th, a subsequent investigation, Department of Corrections Inspector General blamed the warden, Jerry Cummings, and his top commanders for critical security breaches, gross neglect of duty, and ineptitude. Those errors, the probe said, ultimately permitted an inmate to ambush and murder Fitzgerald, who was working late at night, alone, supervising a crew of rapists and violent offenders, some of them lifers, who had access to sharp tools as part of a prison work program. Despite the blistering criticism and demotion, Cummings' career didn't suffer much. He and his top staffers were reassigned, and within a few years he was back on top as warden at Dade Correctional Institute, south of the Homestead. In 2019, Hall appealed his case but was rejected. The U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday refused to take up an appeal by a Florida death row inmate convicted in the 2008 murder of a correctional officer at Tomoka Correctional Institute. Justices is common did not explain their reasons for declining to hear the appeal by inmate Enoch Hall. Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented. In 2016, I know this is kind of going out of order a little bit. I am sorry about that. The appeal was rooted in a 2016 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that found Florida's death penalty sentencing system was unconstitutional because it gave too much authority to judges instead of juries. A subsequent Florida Supreme Court ruling said juries must unanimously agree or critical findings before judges can impose death sentences and must unanimously recommend the death penalty. Hall's attorneys pointed to an alleged error in how the 2016 U.S. Supreme Court ruling in a case known as Hurst versus Florida was carried out. So they were trying to, because 2016 is when they changed the law or rule of that. But he killed her in 2008, and in 2010 was sentenced to death. So, too bad he missed it. Because I know that when they passed that, there was a lot of criminals that actually went from death row inmates to just lifers in prison because of the new rule. Or some words that the secretary said when Officer Fitzgerald passed away, the incident, the murder. Words cannot express the sorrow I feel over the loss of our correctional officer, said Department of Corrections Secretary Walter McNeil. Entire department grieves the murder of one of our finest officers, and we pray for the victim's family during this difficult time. In 2011, I found this blog that was for Donna, and I found some words that her mom wrote to show how just upsetting this was to her. I mean, I would be so upset too. Donna's mother's words in 2011. She said, "I will spend the rest of my life fighting for justice for my daughter, Officer Donna Fitzgerald, and her son Kyle. Donna's murder was so preventable. The corrupt Pride prison work program and Florida DOC are responsible for Donna's murder. Their profit for Pride was worth more than an officer's life, and for her son, I will be my daughter's voice and reveal just how her friend's family, attorney, media, and a very corrupt foundation seek publicity and profits from the murder of a dedicated officer that finished her shift, was asked to cover a shift for a private prison work program, Pride. The facts are there. The truth is there. I will find justice for my daughter and her son Kyle." She feels that the prison failed her. The security protocols failed her. I would feel the same way if this happened to my husband. He's a sergeant in a prison. And, me, I don't work anymore due to medical issues. That is such a stressful job, y'all. Having to be always on your toes, always fighting back with inmates. They are so manipulative, and they will do anything to get what they want. I've seen many officers lose their jobs because inmates have manipulated them. See, you gotta be strong-willed to do this type of job. This breaks my heart. I know that was kind of a lot. What I know is that I'm just going to kind of give you a synopsis, sort of like a quick, this is what happened. In Tomoka in 2008, in their state prison, there was a officer, Fitzgerald, that was there for 13 years. She was a seasoned officer as well. She took up an extra shift to, get more hours. She had a son she had to take care of. And in a building that was for the Pride program where the inmates would work and do labor. A welder inmate named Enoch Hall, he was actually 39 years old at the time, had wanted pills, wanted them so bad that he would hurt anyone. She started closing everything up and was more towards the front of the building with the other inmates, waiting for him to come out. And when she called him and he did not come out, she went in. And she found him in the office trying to go through filing cabinets and stuff to find pills. He couldn't find them. When he saw Fitzgerald, he ran. And she ran after him. I mean, that's our job. She can't have him just running around. There's no telling what he would do if he was unsupervised. She had to follow him. At this point, like if I put myself in her shoes, I wouldn't see that my life was in danger at that point. He ambushed her and stabbed her. And she fought back. She was stabbed more than 25 times. And he belittled and berated her of pulling her pants down and her underwear so the whole world could see. That is the most heartbreaking thing. I'm very happy that the prison did what they're supposed to do. Yes, not everything is perfect. Stuff falls through the cracks. But they did go to try to find her. And they did. You know, it's too late. He was so fiending over some type of drug that he literally wrapped her up and was like, oh, I didn't know if she was dead or not. Dude, really? She ain't moving. What'd you think? And just laid her on a cart and kept looking for drugs and couldn't find it. And that's when he heard the other officers coming and he ran. This world today, there's a lot of defund police and all this stuff. And it breaks my heart because people like my family are there to try to protect you. And even though we're not like on the road cops, you know, the prison correctional officer's job is very dangerous. These inmates they're resourceful. They can find stuff to try to shank other inmates or officers, and it's very dangerous. So that's all I have for this. When you see the pictures, you'll see that she was such a beautiful, lively woman who seemed like she loved life, and she had such a beautiful smile. Please be careful out there, everybody. Please. You never know who might try to hurt you or might snap one day, and just gotta be more observant. This world is horrible that we live in right now, and I pray that all of y'all stay safe. And love one another. Come together, love the country, fight back. That's all I'm saying. I also am going to start a new channel. It is called Curious Raven's Kiss of Death. It will have all of my true crime videos on there. So I will put a link down. I don't have anything on the channel right now at all, but I will put the link down into the description. And if you would, just go follow it, and I will start uploading soon on there. I'm going to first transfer all of the videos I've already did onto that channel, and then I will start looking up more things. I want to do mystery, cold case, true crime sort of stories, and tell you all about it, and maybe help to try to find some people. And I'll try to post on it once a month. And then my true crime will not be on my regular Curious Raven channel that I have my paranormal true stories and my Let's Not Meet true stories. Remember, I do have Patreon. Y'all can go, and it's like $1, and you can hear my videos a day early. And then if you go up tiers, there's a lot of cool stuff. And that is below as well. Also, my merch is below. Check it out. I'm going to go on there and try to do some type of sale coming up in a couple days. I will let y'all know when that is. And I love y'all very, very much. I don't want to say I hope you enjoyed this because it's horrible. I just want to get Donna's story out there. Because to me, murders of officers and things like that don't really have a place. Like, they don't get the light of day like some of these other true crime channels. They're people too. They have family too. We just need to make love for everyone. Stay positive, everybody. I love y'all very much. Make sure you go follow my new channel. Go down below, like it, comment. Tell me who else you want me to do or talk about on my channel, my true crime channel. Any cases you want me to cover. I'm going to try to be able to research better. I know I'm not the best. I'm still working on it. So bear with me. And remember, it's scary out there. Please stay tuned for my next video.
Cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient and soon it can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching for a purpose, I hope it's worth it. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. Society is really trying me, ain't no hide and seek, I hide to be far from anxiety. I need my space, I need my privacy, I need some silence, please. You're all too loud, you don't speak quietly. Opinions violently thrown across every surface, it makes me nervous. Is the world honestly burning? That's all I'm learning. Hope that we can make a turn and start reversing all our minds and put the work in. We got some work, man. I just gotta get through, gotta get through. I just gotta get through, gotta get through. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through. Gotta get through this, life is a nuisance, tie up some loose ends. I try to be human, find a solution, my evolution. A place like this, it didn't exist, we made it like this. So you can go pick the bad or the good, got a glass half wish. I know, it's easier to hide than just to lay low. Not everyone in life has got a halo. I'm standing in the red inside a payphone, just wanna break, no. I'm not gonna give in, take a last shot, Michael J. Win. No, I'm not a robot, I'm in my own skin. Never get lost when thoughts pull you in. I miss the old you, we died with a purpose. All the energy around me felt nervous, scared I would pop out fast to the surface. Had to cut it off before you made me worthless. Torn apart, I've been torn and scarred. I had a given art, but now I'm thinking smart. I'm keeping up my guard, I'm hiding every card. A royal flush of love, you never know what's hard. With a back to the mat, gonna see where I'm at. I'ma fight like I'm mad, I'ma be something that they can never be me. Nice try, but they'll see I achieve everything while they stay salty. I just gotta get through. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know